A shocking expose of some scandal or another comes out, revealing some kind of malfeasance or other abuses, for instance, of public finances and resources. There's usually that period when the scandal seems to hang in the air and none of us is really sure and we're anticipating what next. Well, doesn't seem to be the case with the scandal and the story revealed by the Sunday Times in their expose on the jet set life of senior Department of Social Development officials who splurged some 3 million rand on a New York trip where they lived it up in some of the finest hotels in Manhattan in New York. The department is now almost firmly in the grips of turmoil after its chief director for communications, Lumka Oliphant, was suspended just a day after that Sunday Times expose. Oliphant insists her suspension is politically motivated, claiming it stems from tensions between the current minister, Thulasizwe Simelane, and Lumka Oliphant's former boss, former minister Bathabile Dlamini. The department's suspension letter cites alleged mismanagement of key social protection projects and possibly, irregular spending within the area that Lumka Oliphant has been overseeing. But Oliphant denies the allegations, saying she is being punished for answering media queries about the New York trip. So she has vowed to challenge her suspension, and I think I'm putting it mildly when I say she has vowed to challenge her suspension. She's come out swinging. She's come out guns blazing in a public statement that she issued last night, making all sorts of allegations and also just really making it clear that she intends to stand her ground in as far as this is concerned, and putting the minister, Thulasizwe, firmly within her crosshairs. So Lumka Oliphant will talk to me at the top of the hour 7 as we reflect on these latest developments and her suspension. So that conversation coming up at the top of 7. As digital distractions become more pervasive in our everyday lives, attention is emerging as the one of the most scarce and valuable resources. Face it, we are all distracted in one way or another, but it becomes, quite challenging for people who live with particular conditions. So for adults, for example, who live with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, this represents a growing crisis. In this country, for example, where ADHD remains under-recognized and under-diagnosed, especially in adults, screen addiction and the demands of the quote-unquote attention economy those conditions are exacerbating symptoms and in a way widening the treatment gap. So we'll put this issue under the spotlight at about 8:20. And we're doing this ahead of the Southern African Multidisciplinary ADHD Congress, and that is going to be held between the 3rd and the 6th of September under the theme ADHD in the Digital Age, Thriving in a World of Distraction. So at about 8:20, I'll be speaking to Professor Renata Skuman, who is the head of the MBA in Healthcare Leadership at the Stellenbosch Business School. So that conversation coming up in the 3rd hour of the show. And then lastly, let me quickly tell you about this story. A quip that I made about the prices of toys after Ndauling gave us a report yesterday about Toys R Us and Babies R Us acquiring 13 Toy Zone stores in Gauteng and Durban. Well, that quip that I made triggered a whole conversation in yesterday's show, and it became one of the main themes as many of you were reflecting, and it seems the conversation resonated with many of you in ways that, in a way, I don't think we had anticipated. So we thought it's worthwhile for us to follow up on that, because clearly this is, as I later found out, is quite an emotive issue, the prices of toys, affordability and the like. So we thought we'd take it forward and talk to the people at the coalface of this tie-up, of this merger, and its implications for the local toy market, which is no playing matter. It is worth some 9 billion rand. It was worth 9 billion rand last year. The Toys R Us Toy Zone tie-up is set to strengthen the group's footprint and product availability, but it also highlights the high stakes of the growing and highly competitive toy market. So one where affordability remains a serious concern for everyday South Africans, as we found out in the conversation we had yesterday. So we'll explore the toy market and its dynamics that are either making toys more affordable or out of reach for many. And we'll be speaking to Dr. Phumla Mganga, who is the chairperson of Toys R Us and Babies R Us, and she will be talking to us about that merger and talking to us at about 10 to 8 this morning. As far as the morning brief team goes, we are at full strength once again this morning. Chandugole Gege stands at the ready with your hourly and half-hourly news updates. Rob Byrne has got your traffic updates covered. Zaikan confirms she's got your sport. Melissa Buta with the morning brief in brief coming up shortly. Ndauleng Lechela, as always, right on the money with updates across the 3 hours. And lastly, Mo Africa, Sipho Mantula with your Africa update at about 20 to 7 this morning. In it all, I'd love you to be a part of the conversation as always. Give me a call, 086 000 2032, or send me a WhatsApp voice note on 061 410 4107. An epic journey of knowledge and information sharing, insight and perspective exchanges, and I'm hoping robust engagements beckons over the next 3 hours. I'm ready and raring to go. Are you ready? Come on, let's put it in gear and get it started.
Do you know what's hiding behind colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by 30 September.
The green and gold of Mzansi Africa and the green and white of Nigeria have a massive rivalry in search of victory. Bafana Bafana tackles the Super Eagles. The South clashes with the West. This is the FIFA World Cup African qualifier. South Africa versus Nigeria on Tuesday, 9 September at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Also available on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
Yeah, kicking us off as always is Melissa Buta with the morning brief in brief. Good morning to you, Melissa. Let's start in the Western Cape Division of the High Court. Tell me about this case that has implications for the criminalization of sex work in the country.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. The Western Cape High Court is hearing a landmark case on the decriminalization of sex work brought by the Sex Workers Education and Advocacy Task Force, which argues that current laws are unconstitutional and endanger sex workers. The NPA has paused all prosecutions during the duration of this case. SWET cites potential 8 billion rand in tax revenue and reduced violence through regulation. The Department of Justice is not opposing the case, aligning with the government's support for decriminalization. An amicus hearing involving 16 interested parties concludes today, with the main trial expected to take place early next year. So this will be one to watch to see how this goes.
In education, tell me what the Gauteng Department of Education is dealing with here in these two schools. Allegations of sexual assault.
So the Gauteng Department of Education will refer to sexual assault cases involving teachers at Brommer Space Primary and Prince Roof School for the Blind to the Education Labor Relations Council. At Prince Roof, a teacher is accused of assaulting a blind student during music lessons. The school initially adjusted the teacher's methods after a complaint from the mother, but the case resurfaced when the child's father noticed her declining performance and reported it to the police. Advocacy group Not In My Name condemned the school for failing to act and demanded the teacher's arrest, suspension, and prosecution. In Brommer Space, in that case, police have arrested the accused teacher, and the GDE has pledged full cooperation and prioritized learner safety. So this is a sad one, but another one to watch quite closely.
And lastly, Melissa, coming out of the courts as well, a semblance of justice for the rape and murder of 6-year-old Amantle Samane.
Yes, so Pete Simao, a 25-year-old, has been sentenced to 2 life terms and additional years for the rape and murder of 6-year-old Amantle Samane in Soweto. Despite pleading guilty, the Johannesburg High Court found he showed no genuine remorse during this trial. Judge William Karam criticized Simao for failing to explain his actions, which have left the victim's mother, Ntomzodwa, without any closure. The court described the crime as horrific and condemned the rising violence against children. The MPA has also welcomed the sentence and called it an appropriate sentencing given the severity of the crime and its impact on the family.
Yeah. All right, thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with this morning's edition of The Morning Brief in Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
On the weather front, just one warning coming through from the Weather Service. It's a yellow level 2 warning, and it's for damaging interior winds, leading to localized damage of informal settlements, as well as a risk of widespread runaway fires. And those conditions are expected over the eastern parts of the Northern Cape, as well as the central and western parts of both the Free State and the Northwest Province. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria, fine with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 30. Johannesburg, fine 11 to 30. Vereeniging, fine 10 to 30. Mbombela will be cloudy in the morning with fog patches, otherwise fine 12 to 31. Polokwane, cloudy in the morning with fog patches, otherwise fine 8 to 29. Mahikeng will be fine and windy 13 to 32. Bloemfontein will be fine and windy, 9 to 31. Kimberley, fine and windy, 12 to 33. Uppington, fine and windy, 12 to 36. Cape Town will be partly cloudy with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 21. George, partly cloudy, 10 to 26. Gqeberha will be partly cloudy, 13 to 27. East London, partly cloudy, 15 to 25. Durban, partly cloudy, 18 to 24. Richards Bay, partly cloudy, 17 to 27. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog patches. Otherwise, it will be fine with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 28.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. The University of KwaZulu-Natal will take on the University of Zululand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 5th of September, 2025. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, let me put this to you. What for you are the big takeouts of that significant White House meeting?
The significance was that the European leaders finally realized what is at stake. I mean, of course, this realization has been dawning gradually, but I think the fact that you had this roster of who is who in Europe coming to that meeting it shows that they're very concerned that Donald Trump would be yielding to Vladimir Putin's demands at the expense of Ukraine's long-term, not just security, we're talking about its very sovereignty.
Peter Zalmayevsky, director of the Eurasia Democracy Initiative.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
All right, let's turn to this story now. Desperate scenes are unfolding in eastern Afghanistan after a powerful earthquake killed at least 800 people and injured more than 2,500. The shallow quake struck late on Sunday night near Jalalabad, toppling mud and timber homes and burying families under rubble. Roads to the epicenter have been blocked by landslides, forcing rescuers to use helicopters to reach remote villages. Entire communities in Kunar province have been wiped out, with survivors digging through debris in search of loved ones. Let's get a perspective on this with Professor Guy Midgley, a climate change researcher and acting director of the School for Climate Studies at the University of Stellenbosch. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time as always. What do we understand about this earthquake, its magnitude and the area where it struck, and just how prone that area is for this kind of disaster?
Yeah, it's a good question. Thanks for having me. And, condolences to those affected. Well, magnitude 6 earthquakes are pretty serious. And the fact that this earthquake was only 10 kilometers deep in the Earth's crust made it a very powerful earthquake. But in general, magnitude 6 earthquakes are probably expected somewhere around the world about 150 times a year. So that gives you some sense of how relatively unstable the crust is. And the fact that we live on a planet that is not necessarily friendly for modern human life. There are aspects of our planet that are in fact deeply risky for human life. And it's all about understanding where and when these sorts of disasters can happen. And there science plays a big role.
I note that you mention the depth or the shallowness, let's call it that, the shallowness of the quake. Why is that an important factor when we consider the impact that an earthquake can have?
It's a good question. It's two things. It's the proximity to the point at which the energy is released. An earthquake is triggered when massive plates that the continents sit upon, which slide past each other, is released. And if that point of release is relatively close to the surface, there's not a lot of distance in which to dissipate the energy. So the closer the point is to the surface, the stronger or the more powerful is the energy at the surface. So the deeper earthquakes tend to have a much lower effect at the surface.
So let's talk a bit about the area and geography around Afghanistan and that region of Asia. What are the seismic activity patterns in that region and the features that are at play in that particular region, as well as the geography and how that has come into play in this particular disaster?
Look, it's an area where there is high risk because there are a number of plates that are rubbing against each other. There's the Eurasian plate, the African plate, Arabian plate, and then there's a smallish plate called the Anatolian plate. So it's an area where there are a lot of these edges. If you can think of pieces of a puzzle, there are about 8 or 10 big puzzle pieces that cover the Earth. These curved puzzle pieces. One, of course, is the African plate on which Africa sits, and most continents sit in the middle of the plate, but it's at the edges where where earthquake activity occurs. And unfortunately, that area of the Middle East is at the nexus of a very large number of plates. They're all sliding past each other, and they generate a lot of earthquake activity as a consequence.
And I suppose this is a bit of a difficult one, Prof. In simpler terms, when you mention these plates, these are tectonic plates, right? How would you explain them to someone who perhaps would want to understand more? You keep mentioning the significance of these plates and the confluence of those plates in that particular region. What are we talking about?
Well, let's put it in terms of a soccer ball. If you think of how a soccer ball is put together, it has, that just thought just occurred to me, it has a bunch of hexagonal panels which are knitted together, an old traditional soccer ball, which are knitted together. And that's how the Earth is put together. If you think of the Earth as a soccer ball with these plates as being those panels that are knitted together, and it's at the edges of those where tensions build up. The problematic thing about the Earth panels is that they're being driven by the movement of magma underneath that's going on underneath these plates. So they're causing the plates to rub against each other. And normally they slide past each other without a problem, but every now and then they hook up against each other, and then the tension builds up and finally has to be released. And so, but that happens a lot. I mean, there are probably 50,000 earthquakes are measured across the planet every year. So this happens a lot.
Yeah.
The Earth is not necessarily a friendly place, so we have to have disaster management in place to cope with it.
All right. Thank you for your time and your insights once again. That's Professor Guy Midgley, a climate change researcher and the acting director of the School for Climate Studies at the University of Stellenbosch.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
You know, Zai, when I see the name of the city, Leeds, I can only think of Lucas Radebe.
Leeds United.
He's a legend out in Leeds. Eh? They really, really respect him.
Statue there of him.
But other South Africans, a group of other South Africans seeking to make their name out in Leeds, yeah?
Yeah, and it's called the Proteas. Themba Bavuma's men, they aim to build their name there in winning form. They'll take on England, and this is this afternoon, 2 p.m., the first of 3 one-day internationals. Fresh from a 2-1 series win over Australia, skipper Bavuma says the team is determined to carry their momentum into this tour while also ironing out a few weaknesses exposed in the final defeat to the Aussies. With fast bowler Kagiso Rabada being rested, uncapped seamer Cody Yusuf has been called up to add depth to the attack, and the first ball is due at 2 p.m. On to rugby, South Africa and New Zealand will both be feeling plenty of nerves and the pressure to win ahead of Saturday's Rugby Championship clash in Auckland, according to Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus. The Boks have not been victorious at Eden Park since 1937, and this test has been billed as the biggest for both sides since the 2023 Rugby World Cup final, where the Boks triumphed 12-11 in Paris. Here's Rassie Erasmus.
History is obviously a big thing, and there's a big thing made about the whole Eden Park and so on. So for us, it's a nervous week. We are confident that we can do well, but I guess in New Zealand will be with the pressure that I can see that people put on them currently. We're experiencing very much the same. So I guess it's two teams that have a hell of a lot of respect for each other, but then also internally, I think both teams believe they can win the match.
Soccer news. Chelsea have agreed to an improved package for striker Nicholas Jackson to join Bayern Munich after an on-off transfer saga. The 24-year-old is set to complete an initial loan move for 341 million rand, which includes a mandatory obligation to buy for 1.3 billion rand through a minimum number of appearances. It's a slightly improved in the terms as the one initially agreed, and is now worth in excess of 1.6 billion rand. And finally, US Open tennis action. It's Naomi Osaka turning back the clock with a stunning straight sets win over the world number 3 Coco Gauff, 6-3, 6-2 to surge into the quarterfinals. The top seed Iga Swiatek also booking her place with a 6-3, 6-1 victory over Russia's Ekaterina Alexandrova. Elsewhere, the number 8 seed Amanda Anisimova swept aside Brazil's Haddad Maia 6-love, 6-3. In the men's draw, the world number 1 Yannick Sinner powered past Alexander Bublik 6-1, 6-1, 6-1, while Canada's Felix Auger-Aliassime upset Andrei Rublev in straight sets, and Australia's Alex de Minaur cruising through against Leandro Riddle. And tonight's marquee quarterfinal features the defending champion Carlos Alcaraz against the Czech star Jiří Lehečka. We'll be back serving up sport top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Thank you. With your headlines, I am Chandruko Ligege. Former Western Cape Police Commissioner Leonard Max says the National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola was within his rights when he reinstated 121 case dockets that were taken from the Political Killings Task Team in KwaZulu-Natal. A former police officer accused of killing his Gauteng traffic warden girlfriend, Chesney Kepler, in Eldorado Park is set to appear in the Protea Magistrate Court today. And ANC Limpopo chairperson Stanley Matabata has stepped aside from his role in the ANC due to processes followed for the Vembe and Waterberg regional conferences. More news at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Heavy backlogs towards the airport. This is coming out of Pretoria for your flight connections at OR Tambo or just to get to work down through Kempton Park and Ekurhuleni. The R21 has some proper lane restrictions in by the Atlas Road exit. Traffic is back through Pomona and back towards the R23. That's a very heavy backlog of traffic. If you need to get to the airport from Tembisa, from Clayville, from Pretoria, make sure you've got a ton of time to get through or just avoid it and take some local alternatives, which will be flowing okay at this stage. May change, though. The N17, Brakpan through to Boksburg, still very busy. The single lane section there for roadworks. Big crash and vehicle fire at Van Rynens Pass, up by the village side of Van Rynens. It's on the Durban-bound track, but it's likely to be slow both ways, so watch for that. And Cape Town, one worth avoiding this morning is the M2 inbound. This is Nelson Mandela Boulevard. Crash before Searle Street on your way to the city centre. Traffic all the way back heavily across all lanes to Hospital Bend. Get to Hospital Bend, then split down the M3 Philip Corsana as the alternative. Come into Cape Town CBD via the Garden side instead of Nelson Mandela Boulevard. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechela for the first update of the morning. Let's start in matters to do with AI in Ndauling and its demands and the infrastructure that supports AI. Tell me about OpenAI's plans to open a data center in India.
So the group is reportedly planning to open a data center in that country with a capacity of at least 1 gigawatt, and this is part of its Stargate artificial intelligence infrastructure project. OpenAI is scouting for local partners to initiate work on the project, which would mark a significant expansion of its presence in the region. Now, India is OpenAI's second largest user market after the US, and the data center would allow the company to provide industrial scale AI services without concerns over data transfers. The proposed facility is expected to be one of the largest data centers in India, and its location and timeline are yet to be finalized. This development is part of OpenAI's broader strategy to build AI infrastructure aligned with democratic values and support national AI missions, such as India's $1.2 billion India AI mission. The Stargate project is a $500 billion initiative backed by SoftBank, OpenAI, and Oracle, aiming to build large-scale AI infrastructure globally. I must say, I'm wondering what President Trump thinks about this. Yeah, but we still haven't heard anything from him about this.
We will hear about it quite soon because this is one of those sectors, right? He's been trying to get these companies to open data centers in the United States, and you know that's one of his key things in as far as the economy is concerned. So let's see what he will say to the team at OpenAI. Here at home, though, Ndauling, despite the best efforts and months and months and stalling it and trying to kick the can down the line a few times, the inevitable seems to be now happening as far as ArcelorMittal is concerned.
Yeah. That's right, Thulas, and it's quite disheartening. The group has announced that it will wind down that long steels business, which will affect about 3,500 jobs. Now, this comes despite receiving 1.7 billion rands from the IDC in April and over 400 million rands in wage subsidies from the government in March. The group's CEO, Kobus Verster, cited that long-standing structural problems, including rising imports, limited tariff protection, high electricity costs, and poor rail system performance remain unresolved, weighing on the business. Now, the company had previously deferred the closure of its long steel plants in Newcastle and Vereeniging after consulting with the government, but with financial support efforts falling short, AMSA started issuing Section 189 notices to affected employees from yesterday. The IDC had hoped to buy time for vehicle makers to find alternative suppliers for specialty steel and believes it has achieved this objective with the auto sector making alternative arrangements for next year.
A disaster that this economy can ill afford, absolutely, in terms of the jobs there that are going to be lost. Lastly, Ndauling, how did we close yesterday and what tone has been set this morning?
So U.S. stocks starting the new month on a sour note with markets in the red. The Nasdaq leading those losses down 1% overnight. The mood slightly different here at home with trade mixed. The All Share just making it into the green, up 0.06%. And this comes as resources shot up 3.5%, boosted by an uptick in palladium and gold prices. Sticking with commodities, oil also making gains with prices up over 1%. Brent trading close to $68 per barrel this hour. Meanwhile, in currency markets, action muted with the rand at 17.64 to the greenback. And then lastly, in Asia, trade remains mixed. Traders there cautiously looking ahead to upcoming U.S. monthly jobs data to provide more clues when it comes to the Fed's next move. That print only out on Friday.
All right. Thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lechela. She'll be back with another update for you just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
And for that, we turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, let's start with the Cabinda oil refinery out in Angola. That is coming to life. It's roaring and rumbling to life, is it?
Thulas, Jumbo Africa. Indeed, Thulas, remember that Angola is almost 50 years since its independence. Thulas, the Minister of Mineral Resources, Petroleum and Gas, Diamantino Azevedo, yesterday said to us that by the end of the year, they will have produced what they say 30,000 barrels per day to us. That's how Angola will be pushing. Remember, they had a deadly protest around the fuel subsidy. Now, as they are pushing for that to us, Angola will be number 2 crude producer, now less dependent on this costly fuel imports that they've been having from outside. I've seen many companies, not African companies from London, they have an interest. You have the Americans, they have an interest, the Chinese, as well as the EU banks, So it shows that even if Angola is rising, it should benefit the SADC region first and the EU. But like I've said to you, you see companies that are outside the continent who have an appetite towards Cabinda oil refinery.
Yeah. And then in Kampala, Sipho, tell me about Kizza Besigye, the opposition figure. He's boycotting the start of his treason trial, is he?
He is boycotting with his ally Obed Lutale, saying that yesterday when the matter was supposed to be heard, they were saying that Emmanuel Baguma should recuse himself because they are saying that he is not capable of delivering justice with fairness and impartiality. And remember, Bisega Thulas was a former ally and a personal physician of Yoweri Museveni. Now he's standing a trial again, and nobody knows whether he will enter the elections in 2026, as he has been in those elections 4 times and he never made it, Thulas. But yesterday, with his lawyers, he refused to appear before Judge Emmanuel Baguma.
And in the DRC, Sipho, you are always making the point that it's one thing to talk to the M23, but the situation is far more complex than that. There's an entire group of other rebel groups and even an alliance. Tell me about the Congo River Alliance. It includes the M23, does it? What are they saying about these peace agreements?
Correctly, Thulas, we will recall the name Colonia Naga. This is the leader of the Congo River Alliance, who yesterday, Thulas, had a press briefing lamenting on the violation of the peace declaration that was signed in Qatar on the 8th of August last month. It missed its deadline on the 18th of August. Now they are accusing Kinshasa Thulas for carrying out attacks in the South Kivu in the eastern Congo, and they are putting pressure on the Qatari mediators, the AU and the United Nations, to press Kinshasa to honor their commitments. Remember, Tshisekedi over the weekend, Thulas spoke about a dialogue with Congolese who want to rebuild their country and emerge from the crisis. And hence, this week, Thulas, as you know, the Peace and Security Dialogue will also focus on the DRC. And it will be interesting to hear that other side that I've been saying, that you can't talk to Rwanda and DRC government. You need to listen to Congo River Alliance as well as M23 to hear their side of story, because there's been so long since the Battle of Goma in January 2025. Now we need to find peace because there's attacks that are happening. There's peace processes that are in Qatar and Washington, and there's a peace and security dialogue that will be held in South Africa beginning tomorrow until Saturday.
All right, and then lastly, in your historical archive, I see that you've got a very interesting focus that I think the Amakosi will enjoy. Tell me what happened on the 2nd of September 1982.
Thulas, he is turning 43 years today. He used to be called the General, Dinashe, Father, Mengomashe. The man was married to the daughter of legendary Oliver Tukuti until their divorce in 2023, Samantha. He played for Atlas Warriors Football Club, Thulas 1999, Black Aces Football, Mugabe, and then he joined Kaizer Chiefs. 42 caps for the national team, and he was a Footballer of the Year, Thulas, in South Africa in 2003 and 2004, as well as the Player of the Year award. The General, that was a good midfielder, Thulas. I'm not any support of any team, Thulas, but I said this was the General, Dinash Nengomash.
No, I can tell. The fact that you went and uplifted it says a lot, Sipho, because this doesn't come naturally to you.
They are now on the winning spree, Thulas. We'll see whether they'll break that record of not having a goal conceded. We'll see what will happen in this
neutral is Sweden, but here you are.
I'm neutral. No, those are the politics of soccer. You know that I wanted to spice it this morning by saying happy birthday to Dinashe, the father, General.
Thank you for that.
Asante sana Thulas, SFM, observing the Heritage Month.
Sipho Mantula there with the Africa Update.
The landowners of the following properties are called upon to file notices of appearance with the Land Court within 30 working days from the date of publication via television, newspapers, email and WhatsApp. Portions 147, 184, 303, 122, 167 and 174 of the farm Broederstroom 481 JQ. Portions 62 and 36 of the farm Leuvenkloof 480 JQ. Portion 34 of the farm Wilgegand 491 JQ. Failure to file a notice of appearance or notice to participate within the prescribed period may result in court orders granted in your absence. Inquiries, Registrar of the Land Court 010-493-5392 or Office of the Regional Land Claims Commissioner, Northwest Province 082-947-7106. Alternatively 064-009-2467.
Get ready for the 26th edition of the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. 3 memorable days from the 26th to the 28th of September across 4 spectacular stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Join over 50 incredible, world-renowned stars like Esperanza Spalding, The Baylor Project, Andile Yenana, Michelle Ndegeocello, Tresor, Jose James, Omo Sangare, Jasmia Horn, Gabby Motuba, Benjamin Jafta, Nomfundo Kaluva, Mondli Ngobo, Lakisha Benjamin, Alun Wade, and others on a musical journey deep into the heart and art of jazz. Take me there. Get your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
15 minutes to 7. Nearly 2 years after after an underground gas explosion tore it apart, Lillian Ngoyi Street in Johannesburg's CBD has finally undergone major repairs. The city has completed phase 1 of reconstruction at a cost of some 82 million rand, with paving bricks replacing traditional tar. Despite the milestone, the road will only open to traffic on the 12th of September once contractors finish final work on the sidewalks. Officials say Phase 2 will begin immediately with more than 110 million rand allocated to continue upgrades through to 2026. Let's speak to Zweli Nyathi, the CEO of the Johannesburg Roads Agency. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. It's not to split hairs or anything like that, but you had said, you had given an undertaking that Phase 1 would be done by the end of August, such that the road would be operational by the beginning of September. As a matter of fact, that's not where we are. We will have to wait 12 days into it. And the reason I asked that question and I start there is that this is a project that had already seen a number of delays. So what made you miss your own deadline?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Good morning to the listeners. The road on its own, we can drive. Yesterday, actually, we tested a whole lot of cars on the road. The issue is the snags on the sides. As you understand that we are redesigning the entire city. It's no longer about the road, but we're creating sidewalks, more of a livable city than just fixing the road and off we go. If we were fixing just the road and forget about the side infrastructure, we would say we are complete. But we're just dealing with the snags. If you drive there, you'll see there's a whole new pavement and other things that have been created to make the city more livable. But we're also trying to decongest the city. The issue of having 5 lanes right in the middle of the CBD didn't help us because it promoted things like jaywalking, as there was no walking paths. It created a whole lot of confusion, people doing zigzag in the middle of the road. So when we limit those kind of movements, we're promoting cyclists and pedestrian walking on the side. So the idea of the transit mall or transit master plan, it's actually dictating that we do things that way. If we have a chance, we can be able to do that or replicate that in the entire city so that we have a livable city and we compare to other progressing economies.
All valid points, Mr. Nyati, but I seem to recall that all of those factors, the sidewalks and the likes, were already in play when you were making this undertaking to finish the project phase 1 by the end of August. And again, I will emphasize that this is partly about a concern among South Africans and Joburg residents about infrastructure projects overrunning, and this one had already been delayed. So this was already in play. You were always going to do all of these things, more livable city. So why miss the deadline?
Okay, here's the other thing. Just not so long ago, about 5 months ago, there was rain for 2 months. That whole channel was full of water all the way, the stretch of about 480 meters. And you'll understand that if you are installing those columns underneath, if it's not dry, you cannot work. We had to come with other means of technology and added more manpower. I can tell you the residents have seen that in the same project. For the first time, they have seen people working overnight, doing night shift. So we did put a catch-up plan to make sure that we meet the August deadline. However, the other small areas that I'm talking about couldn't be met timelessly. Hence, we said we will do it, in a matter of a week or so. But it really challenged us in terms of the contractors having to wait until it's dry. And we lost a lot of time, and it happened consistently, yes.
So let's talk about the preference for paving bricks versus traditional tar. I don't think many had anticipated and expected that. What informed that approach?
Look, in terms of asphalt, we didn't have a problem because we have a plant producing that. But the bricks are more sustainable. I'll put it in place. If you look at other places where there's paving, it's more sustainable and more flexible. We have created drainage surface underneath for the water to sink in without damaging the infrastructure, and it's channeled properly into the stormwater channels. Whereas with the traditional tarmac, you find that water doesn't find its way or KIs are blocked. Eventually, when it cracks, that's where water goes in and it starts creating things like potholes. But at the same time, with bricks, besides durability, it's easy to maintain. We can easily open up, fix whatever that is damaged underneath, or if a brick is cracked, we can bring others, and then we patch and off we move. So it's a very, very simple methodology to say what other technologies can we try, especially in the CBD. It is not a highway where you can have heavy trucks and stuff. It's normal passenger vehicles. So in terms of beautifying the city, we are looking into doing that because it's more sustainable. And we need to stick to new turnaround times in terms of fixing the road. We don't have to cut and do everything. You take a picture or whatever the case might be, we come back with the bricks, we compact, we make sure that we stabilize the road. So it's a livable kind of a way.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Zweli Nyati, who is the CEO of the Johannesburg Roads Agency.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
R21 on your way to the airport, just getting a lot heavier. Now, there's some roadworks as you get down towards Atlas Road. That is primarily the reason for the backlog. Those are roadworks appearing without notice and catching everybody out. And then in the back of the queue, there's been a crash before you get to Pomona Road. So put the crash and the roadworks together. Plenty of lane restrictions. Traffic is heavy. It is all the way back through the Benoni exit and working halfway back towards sort of the Bopsfontein off-ramp. That's a very substantial backlog. If you are airport bound, coming out of Pretoria, Tembisa, Clayville side, make sure you got plenty of time to get through it or look at some alternative routes off at Olifantsfontein or off at Bopsfontein and hit those side roads. They will be busier than normal, but at this stage they'll be quicker than that R21. Other issues this morning, a breakdown on the busy N1 North in the high volume at Golden Highway, so big queues coming up from Eldos, N3, Germiston through to Modderfontein Road looking pretty heavy, and the N1 South busy today, Bruckfontein all the way to New Road with no gaps in the traffic. N4 into Pretoria queuing up through Watermeer Street down towards the N1 highway. A reminder of the crash scene up at Van Reenen's Pass. There may be some delays, truck crash and vehicle fire up by the village side of the pass, so just watch for that. Durban's N2 North jamming up from M7 through Westwood Mall. That's already busy. And Cape Town, an earlier crash on the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard at Searle Street is the reason for the big delays coming in on the N2. Traffic's all the way from Robert Sobukwe. That is almost from the airport all the way through the bend and down into the city centre. If you're approaching the bend off-ramp, use Philip Kosana as a better run through. The M3 is extra heavy today with traffic sitting from Constantia all the way up and down Weinberg Hill towards Paradise Road in the Newlands area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89 followed by your name to 41391 and stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply. You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Tensions flaring up at Alra Park Primary School in Nigel in Gauteng as parents and community members confronted the provincial education officials over crumbling infrastructure. The visit by the Education MEC Matume Chilwane came after 3 weeks of protests that disrupted learning for hundreds of pupils. Police were called in to calm a heated exchange before the MEC entered a closed meeting with the school's Infrastructure Crisis Committee. Chilwane has promised to build a brand new school within 18 months, saying refurbishment of the old one would cost more. In the meantime, learners will be accommodated in renovated mobile classrooms with urgent fixes to electricity, paving and dust control. Let's get a take from Sergio Issa dos Santos, who is a member of the provincial legislature for the DA and also its shadow MEC for education. Good morning and thank you for your time. Disruption of education for at least 3 weeks. Tell me what we understand about the situation at Alra Park and how we landed at this point.
Good morning, firstly. Thank you for having me on. So that's going on 4 weeks now. There's been a lot of concerns that the SGB and parents have raised with the MEC's office with regards to the conditions of Alra Park. As far as back as 3 years ago, in 2023, there was an assessment done by the department, which the Crisis Committee also demanded a independent engineer's report. But in terms of the brick and mortar structures at the school, it was deemed that it was unsafe. If you go around the structures of the school, you'll see many cracks along the brickwork. There's many arrows pointing to structural damage. In terms of the foundations of the brick and mortar school, you'll see that a lot of it is actually crumbling down. you'll see areas that are becoming gaps between the different structures. Even in terms of the door frames, you can see that there's structural movement within the actual structures. So that was in 2023. 2024, unexpectedly, the department installed air conditioners at the school. When you declare a school to be unsafe and it shouldn't be used, you install air conditioners. The department delivered 30 mobile classrooms. But the problem with the mobile classrooms is that firstly, this is a primary school, so it is small learners that are used in these school facilities. There's been an educator that broke his leg going up some of these stairs. In one of the buildings, it was being used as a kitchen for the school nutrition program. Sure. And one of the staff members actually broke her arm when opening the window. Basically, the whole window frame fell and broke her arm. So that had stopped. And it came to a boiling point where the parents were saying, we've been trying to engage with this department. They had made some pronouncements in the past and nothing has materialized. And it unfortunately got to the situation where they actually prevented their children from going to school for the last 3 weeks. MEC Thulasizwe visited yesterday for the first time in over 3 weeks. I believe that schooling will eventually start commencing soon.
Yeah, in
However,
phases. Yeah.
It is also dependent on the some of the commitments made by the MEC yesterday, such as brickwork, attending to some of the mobile classrooms, such as the steps, etc.
Should a school that, as far as I understand, is a heritage school, right, in the sense that it dates back to about 130 years ago, I mean, I'm just astounded. I would have thought that it should have been preserved, given its history and heritage. What does it say that a school like that, with that heritage value, can find itself plagued by the number of problems that you just outlined?
Yeah, 100%. So according to the crisis committee, the school is 130 years old, or the building are 130 years old. It was officially inaugurated in 1937. And, a building that's over 100 years old should be a heritage site. And the fact is that there was no maintenance provided to the school buildings for the last several years. And it's gotten to a point where it is structurally unsafe. There has been concerns, and I did ask the crisis committee if there is concerns with the Zamazamas in the area. We've seen more recently that school infrastructure has been affected by some of the Zamazama works, the explosions that they may do. And there has been some concerns in and around that particular area of Aurora Park. But Aurora Park is an impoverished community. There's a high unemployment rate. It is very difficult to have a school being maintained if the department does not come in and assist the school. And it got to a point where, unfortunately, the parents had to prevent their children from getting school education for 3 weeks, and we're almost at the end of the term now. And it's mainly because the department first made pronouncements or a commitment a year ago. They did not live up to it. Yeah. And now it's taken 3 weeks before they address this.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Sergio Isa dos Santos, MPL for the DA. Also, it's Shadow MEC for Education in Gauteng. 7 a.m. Let's go straight to Chanduko Legege with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
Thank you, Thulasizwe. Your top stories at this hour. Former Provincial Police Commissioner weighs in on Dorcas controversy, and family of Chesney Kepler demand justice. Good morning. With the news at 7 o'clock, I am Chanruko Ligege. Former Western Cape Police Commissioner Leonard Max says the National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola was within his rights when he reinstated 121 case dockets that were taken from the Political Killings Task Team in KwaZulu-Natal. Acting Police Commissioner Firoz Kashalia said due process was not followed. KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi claimed political interference and corruption within the police service. Dr. Max says the Madlanga Commission and Political Killings Task Team are separate institutions.
The police are mandated in terms of Section 205 of the Constitution and among others to prevent, combat and investigate crime. So the intention of the National Commissioner to send it back for investigation fall within the purview of his authority. If you read the mandate of the Commission of Inquiry, there's nothing in there which actually tasks the Commission to investigate the legitimacy of the removal of the dockers.
A former police officer accused of killing his Gauteng traffic warden girlfriend, Chesney Kepler, in Eldorado Park is set to appear in the Protea Magistrate Court today. Mandla Buthelezi allegedly shot and killed Kepler following a domestic dispute on the 26th of December last year. Buthelezi is out on 20,000 rand bail. Kepler's family feels they have been let down by the justice system. Family member Elsabe Witten.
I'm really not happy. Our justice system is failing us. When will it end? Woman abuse, child abuse will never end. That is heartbroken news for us. We will be a voice and we will fight for justice. We will never stop. Our child is no more. But the heart doesn't stop.
The Department of Education in the Free State Province has confirmed that it is investigating allegations of sexual harassment leveled by 6 former learners at the St. Bernard High School in Bloemfontein. 5 former learners have told the SABC that they fell victim last year. One recounted how a camp facilitator sent her nude pictures of himself through social media. Department spokesperson Howard Ndaba says 2 teachers have since been suspended.
As a department, unfortunately, we were not aware until this incident was brought to our attention via the social media. As a school, as a district, as a department, we saw some of these allegations on social media, and immediately we then contacted some of these learners. So far, we've contacted about 5 of these learners.
ANC Limpopo chairperson Stanley Mathabata has stepped aside from his role in the ANC due to processes followed for the Bembe and Waterberg regional conferences. Mathabata, in a letter sent by the SABC News, says there are unethical tendencies within the ANC. Mathabata says he is available to engage with the party's national leadership, but until then he is stepping aside. He says his decision was motivated by the concerning misconduct and lack of ANC values within the organization. In other news, the decreases in fuel prices will take effect from midnight. The Department of Minerals and Petroleum Resources announced the drops yesterday, including a cut of as much as 57 cents a litre for diesel. The department says the petrol price will decline by 4 cents a litre and illuminating paraffin by 49 cents. Spokesperson Robert Maki.
The reasons are as follows: the lower oil prices during the period under review, the rand appreciated slightly on average against the US dollar during the same period.
And finally, a landslide that destroyed a village in western Sudan's Darfur region has left at least 1,000 people dead. The Sudan Liberation Movement Army announced that a village in the Mara Mountains had been entirely destroyed after days of rainfall. The country is in the grips of a catastrophic civil war between the Sudan Army and the Rapid Support Forces. As shown Bryce Peace reports, the village destroyed was located near a hotspot of the war in the Darfur region.
The UN says Sudan has 30 million people in need of aid after a civil war destroyed a country once regarded as the breadbasket of the region. In addition, Mother Nature now unleashed on a village in the Mara Mountains where people had sought refuge from the raging conflict between Sudan's army and the Rapid Support Forces. The rebel Sudan Liberation Movement Army, which reportedly controls the area hit by the landslide, appealed to the United Nations and other international aid agencies to help recover the bodies of the victims. It's unclear what capacity Sudanese government authorities have to respond after years of war.
The top story at 7, former Western Cape Police Commissioner Lynette Max says the National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola was within his rights when he reinstated 121 case dockets that were taken from the Political Killings Task Team in KwaZulu-Natal. For SAFM News, I am Chandruko Ligege.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
You are the poster child, the biggest saver we've ever had.
I decided that I would contact Outsurance and let them work out what they could do for me.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, big saving. 2,794 Rand a month.
That's over 33,000 Rand a year.
And it was the easiest switch ever. Real people helping real people get real deals.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, cricket action, Proteas back on the field. As Captain Themba Bavuma says the team wants to build momentum after beating Australia. And in tennis, the tennis legend Venus Williams rolled back the years at the US Open, teaming up with Leila Fernandez to win their women's doubles. We'll have details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Very big backlogs, really substantial queues on your way from Pretoria down for those flight connections at OR Tambo. Crash scene before you get to Pomona, and then roadworks down by Atlas Road. Those roadworks popping up without any warning out of nowhere this morning. So both the crash and the roadworks pushing a heavy queue all the way back almost to Bupsfontein Road. That's really extreme. If you've got a flight to connect with, think about alternative routes or make sure you've got a ton of time to get through there. The Mike 1 Boys is up to Empire Road, fairly standard with its sluggishness this morning. N4 going in from Vartamay Street towards the M1 if you're heading to Pretoria, trying to get through to Hatfield. Big queues there as well to work through. Durban, the N2 North clogged between the M7 and Westwood Mall, perhaps a touch slower than you might be expecting. In Cape Town, big traffic on the N2 inbound, a breakdown at Hospital Bend, and then a crash scene on Nelson Mandela Boulevard at Searle Street. So that's a really heavy queue coming in from the airport all the way almost into CBD territory this morning. R300 North through Brackenfell towards the N1 very slow, and Baden-Powell again queuing this morning. If you're on your way to Stellenbosch, Baden-Powell at the bottom of Khayelitsha, queues up towards the N2 Highway Bridge. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7 on this Tuesday. It is great to be in your company and welcome to it. The second hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Remember a few years ago, a couple of years ago, the expression echachalazin was popularized. It had been used by one Lumka Oliphant, a spokesperson for the Department of Social Development. It was in a completely different context, of course. But how do you explain the chachalazin? Basically, it's let's have it out. You and I, if you have an issue, let's have it out right here, right now. Almost like in this Colosseum, in this public space, in this public square. Let's have it out. Well, it seems to be another moment that can be likened to that is playing out in as far as Lumka Oliphant is concerned and her career with the Department of Social Development. She's been suspended, but she's not taking it lying down, penning, what shall we call it? Almost a statement, let's call it a statement, out in social media yesterday. No holds barred, not holding back at all in talking against her boss, the Minister of Social Development, Sisi Sitolashe. It's all to do with the expose of the Sunday Times on Sunday that reported about a trip that was undertaken by various officials to New York that cost taxpayers some 3 million rand. Lumka Oliphant is on standby to talk to me about that particular story and those developments. So that's coming up in a moment. And shortly after that, we'll be speaking to Willem Els and talking about a report that has flagged East and Southern Africa as a critical nexus for organized crime, connecting regional illicit economies with global trafficking networks. It's got enough elements in that story to get us all worried because we are part of that region, Southern Africa at least. So Willem Els will unpack all of that and its implications for strategies that we adopt to deal with organized crime. In all of this, please do weigh in on all of these conversations and others that may be exercising your mind. Call me on 086 000 2032 or send me WhatsApp voice note on 061 410 4107. With that said then, let's get into it, the second hour of the morning brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Yeah, so let's get into this story then about Lumka Oliphant. The Department of Social Development is in turmoil after its Chief Director for Communications, Lumka Oliphant, was suspended just a day after a Sunday Times expose on a 3 million rand overseas trip undertaken earlier this year by several departmental officials. Oliphant insists her suspension is politically motivated, claiming it stems from tensions between Minister Thulasizwe Simelane and her former boss, Lumka Oliphant's former boss, Bathabile Dlamini, the former minister. The department's suspension letter, though, cites alleged mismanagement of key social protection projects and possible irregular spending. Oliphant denies the allegations, saying she is being punished for answering media queries about the New York junket. She joins me now to take the conversation forward. Lumka, good morning and thank you for your time. Why should we believe that this has nothing to do with these concerns, these governance concerns and expenditure concerns that are cited as the official reasons, and believe that it is politically motivated?
Maybe we need to then maybe wait for the Auditor General's report when it comes out, so that people can be able to look for themselves and see and read for themselves. I believe that the department is going to the portfolio committee next week, where they will be accounting for the exact things that they're talking about. And if they are talking about the Auditor General's report, it means that the DG is not supposed to be sitting in his place. All the executives of the department are not supposed to be sitting in their place, because we are sitting with an irregular expenditure for the Gender-Based Violence Command Center, sitting at about 17 million, and nobody has been suspended. We are sitting now, the Auditor General will be telling the country that we are also sitting with 2 or 7 billion of irregular expenditure from and that the auditors that we have failed to supervise SASA, and we are qualified. Therefore, it means the CFO is not supposed to be sitting in a place. Every single executive of that department, including the DG, should be suspended.
But as a matter of fact, have there been concerns, governance concerns that have been expressed either by the Auditor General or other processes around the integrated justice system, as well as the National Integrated Social Protection Information System, NIS, PIS, and were those projects that fell within your line of command?
Yeah, as you know, Thulasizwe, that my substantive post is communication.
Yeah.
And I was acting as the Deputy Director General for Corporate Support Services, of which these programs lie in. When I got to that post, I found, those programs having problems already that have been flagged by the Auditor General. I was the first one to have ever gone to Parliament and account for what we are doing for NISPs. There is an allegation that there was money that was used for NISPs, and I will prove to the country that there was not a single cent that was used for NISPs for it to be hosted by CETA. It is only just now that this program is going for being taken to the cloud. They are saying as well, they are alleging that I have misled the portfolio committee in saying that we have this integrated system. Yes, we do have the integrated system, Thulasizwe, because I was able to tell you the matrix of this country, each and every child, how did they pass, and whether they qualify for NSFAS, whether they were incarcerated, and I was able to tell Parliament because of that in this piece. And the other one, the IJS system, I'm completely clueless about what they are talking about, because I'm not sure what they are talking about. The IJS program is a program of the Department of Justice and the Department of Social Development is integrating into that that program to digitize the criminal justice system. So I'm yet to hear what those are about, but I am telling you that if they are saying they are talking about the Auditor General's report, every executive, including the DG, should be suspended.
So in that extraordinary statement that you've now put out, you mention the suspicion that you're saying has lingered around you for possibly having leaked information to the Sunday Times that formed the basis of their reporting on Sunday. As a matter of fact, did you leak any information to the Sunday Times?
Thulasizwe, the parliamentary questions, as you know, you are also a journalist, you know that parliamentary questions are a public document. The Sunday Times got the parliamentary questions that we answered to Parliament, Thulasizwe. But I can tell you that the Sunday Times did not have everything when they sent the questions. It was in the reply that was sent by the department, which I was not also party to. I just sent the things to the Sunday Times because I was told to just leave the things as they are. They handed over the story to the Sunday Times. The Sunday Times didn't know which airline people flew. They didn't know which hotel people stayed in. They volunteered that information to the Sunday Times, of which I had said to them, they are going to be in trouble because now they have given them. It only takes a Google Thulasizwe to get how much that hotel costs. It only takes a phone call to a travel agency to tell you how much that hotel costs. They willingly gave the information to the Sunday Times, and I told them. And I said to them, you have given information. I'm a former journalist, Thulasizwe. I knew that we are going to be here. But let me tell you, when the Sunday Times sent the questions, I think it was Wednesday. On Wednesday evening, I got a call from the DG asking me, how did a journalist get the parliamentary questions? I was very stunned because as a DG, you should know that this is a public document.
Those
That's
are
why
readily
you have the parliamentary group that looks at these things. We were talking about the deputy president the other day, and him and the House.
Because of time, Lumka. Because of time, let me try and move us forward. The statement you've put out is quite extraordinary in the sense that, if you don't mind me saying, it almost evinces a sense of the relationship between yourself and the minister is damaged beyond repair. I mean, departing from tradition where you would ordinarily refer to, quote unquote, the minister, you are first naming her, you're calling her Sisisi, and you're even talking about, her qualifications or lack thereof, talking about how she doesn't even have a matric certificate and needs to complete grade 12. Am I correct in characterizing it that the relationship has broken down completely? And what has led to that breakdown, given that earlier on in the year, there's a social media post that people have dug up now where you were praising her and praising her for giving you an opportunity to perform at the highest level?
Yes, Thulasizwe. With every minister that has come to the department, every minister I've supported all the time and every time. Everyone who comes in there, even though I know with Susan Shabangu came to the department. If you saw when Susan Shabangu came to the department, I was not even in the public domain because I could see that she did not want to work with me. I went to school and I went to study to further my studies. The next time, and then I had a very good relationship with Lindwezon. Then this minister came into the department. There were those subtle things that she usually, does in meetings and tries to undress you in meetings, and I've gone through that all the time, every time. But because I was given an opportunity to lead and be able to a good public servant, I said thank you for the opportunity that she has given me, and I made sure that I worked diligently. But I knew that there were these things that she was doing on the side. And everybody who has been in an executive meeting, they will tell you that each and every meeting she would pick on me, she would pick on my work. I'll just keep quiet and continue with the work.
So do you believe this all has to do with political tensions between herself and your former boss, the former minister, Bathabile Dlamini?
It is a known fact in the department. I have been called an enemy of the minister by people who have been very close to her. And I did not know what that means. Every time when this thing came in, I would say, I don't know what that means. And that very Bathabile was disappointed to hear that I had mistreated the minister, because if everything that she has taught me, every leader that comes to the Department of Social Development, I must make sure that I support them, because they have been sent by the African National Congress.
All right. Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for talking to me. That's Lumka Oliphant, the suspended Chief Director of Communications in the Department of Social Development. Obviously, the department owes the public some kind of explanation, because the allegations that Lumka Oliphant makes that she's being targeted for reasons other than the reasons that are stated, that's clearly in the public interest, is it not?
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195, and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Today marks the beginning of the Vision 2040 Indaba, convened by the South African National Parks. SANParks' Vision 2040 is a strategic framework that brings together civil society groups, communities, traditional leaders, women, government, private sector, donors and sponsors to reimagine conservation by integrating natural and cultural heritage with social justice and economic empowerment. Vision 2040, championing the harmony of people and nature.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
East and Southern Africa have become a crucial nexus for organized crime, connecting regional illicit economies with global trafficking networks. This is the alarming conclusion of a recent report by the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime, which highlights how the region, stretching from Somalia's coast to Namibia, serves as a source, hub and conduit for a wide array of illegal commodities. From drugs and wildlife to gold and human trafficking, weak governance, porous borders and systemic corruption have allowed criminal syndicates, often with international connections, to flourish across the region. Let's speak to Velem Els, a senior training coordinator on terrorism and explosives at the Institute for Security Studies. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. A critical nexus for organized crime for such a vast region stretching from eastern to southern Africa. That's reason for concern. Tell me what, in your understanding, makes these two regions a source, hub and conduit for an array of illegal activities.
Good morning to you. Yeah, that's a very good question. You know, if you look at the Transnational Organized Crime Index, we see that the countries mentioned there, especially South Africa and Kenya, the criminality levels are extremely high, where South Africa rated number 1 in the region, number 3 in the continent, and also number 7 in the world. So that is really a reason for concern. But what we see is this criminality and all these networks, they actually make use of a trade route, an ancient trade route that's been there for more than 1,000 years. It's called the Swahili Coast. And for all these years, some commerce has traveled down from Yemen all the way to Somalia, all the way to Inhambane in Mozambique, and they all speak the same language, Swahili. So there's an established route, and we see that these criminal syndicates, they infiltrated these groups and they are utilizing them in order to transport the illicit goods, from drugs to humans that are smuggled through gold and all the other illicit goods that are coming in. So that is the one side of the challenge. The other side of the challenge is your countries like Kenya and South Africa are the financial hubs of these two regions, and the more developed financial services and banking infrastructure that also contributes to the lucrative destination and also environment for these criminals to thrive. But apart from that, endemic corruption is also a challenge.
So while you mentioned that then, what does it say about efforts to push back against organized crime that established economies and the strengths, what appears to be strengths of some of these regions, for example, Joburg and Gauteng, but also the infrastructure that's meant for legitimate economic activities such as the ports in countries like Mozambique, Tanzania, and this country. The fact that those can be channeled for illicit activities. What does it say about governance in those countries as well as a concerted effort to push back against organized crime?
Yeah, well, that doesn't say a lot about good governance in these countries, so they are lacking all of them. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been where we are today. Having said that, I think there's an ideal opportunity for these countries now to get together. We saw last week the regional Interpol conference where they addressed some of these challenges and also came up with some recommendations on how to fight these criminal networks. The problem is that your agents that are working, the civil agents that are working at all these ports of entries, at the borders, etc., they are extensively being targeted by these syndicates, and they've got lots of money. So they are corrupting these state-embedded actors, as we refer to them, and that facilitates for them to then not only move their illicit goods, but also protect them from being arrested and also being prosecuted. So we have to look at a strategy, a cross-regional strategy, not only a national strategy, in order to curb these illicit trafficking, because at the end of the day, it is undermining the legitimate economies of the region and of the countries.
All right, food for thought. Thank you for that. That's Willem Els, Senior Training Coordinator on Terrorism and Explosives at the Institute for Security Studies.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
It's a very good morning. We'll start with cricket. The Proteas back on the field this afternoon, taking on England in the first one-day international in Leeds. Skipper Themba Bavuma says the squad is determined to build on their 2-1 series win over Australia, while also tightening up on areas that cost them in the final defeat of that tour. The South Africans have had a short turnaround between tours, but used their early arrival in England for recovery and preparation. Fast bowler Kagiso Rabada has been given a break, with uncapped seamer Cody Yusuf called into the squad to bolster the pace attack. First ball being bowled at 2 p.m. today. On to some soccer news. Newcastle have agreed to a deal worth 1.3 billion rand for Brentford forward Johan Wissa, a day after he urged the Bees to keep their word and let him leave. The fee was an initial 1.1 billion plus 119 million in add-ons, and the DR Congo international is travelling to Newcastle to complete the formalities of the move. Let's go to athletics. Lesotho's national 10-kilometre record holder Neheng Katala has confirmed that she will take part in the 42.2-kilometre marathon at the upcoming World Senior Championships in Tokyo from the 13th to the 21st of September, despite not having a proper marathon training program.
If I can make it top 20, I would be happy with it. If I make it top 20. I was top 20 in Olympic Games. So if this is my first time doing World Champs, so if I can do it top 20, I would be very, very happy.
In the meantime, South African swimmer Kayleen Corbett insists she has never lived in the shadow of Olympic champion Tatiana Smith, despite constant comparison between the two. The University of Pretoria-based swimmer admits Smith's retirement has changed the dynamic in their training development.
But now I think that now that Tat isn't there, there definitely is a little bit more pressure in terms of not having someone else in the in the room with you. So it's been very different not having her there, and I wish that she was still there, because it was definitely much nicer having someone.
And finally, tennis. The legend Venus Williams rolled back the years at the US Open, teaming up with Leila Fernandez to win the women's doubles round of 16. In the singles action, Japan's Naomi Osaka upset the world number 3 Coco Gauff. Here's Osaka.
What I want to take away from this tournament is just smiling and having fun. And I know in my first round, I was too nervous to smile. And my match against Kasatkina, I was just really not smiley at all. So going into this match, I just wanted to be grateful. And yeah, I mean, she's one of the best players in the world. And for me, honestly, I have the most fun when I play against the best players.
It's Game, Set and Match for now. On the Morning Brief, we'll bring you more sport. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
Thank you. These are your headlines. Parents of learners at Borkonspread Primary School east of Pretoria are demanding answers following multiple allegations of rape and lack of transparency. Former Western Cape Police Commissioner Lynette Max says the National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola was within his rights when he reinstated 121 case dockets that were taken from the Political Killings Task Team in KwaZulu-Natal. And survivors of a devastating earthquake in eastern Afghanistan have spent a night in the open as rescue efforts continue. More news at 8 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. If you're driving out of Pretoria's Montana area, Sifaka Makato, okay to the highway, but you'll get on the highway and then you'll sit all the way from Montana down through Stormville down towards a crash by the N4 Emelathleni split. The other big story today is major delays on the R21. There's roadworks down by Atlas Road. These have popped up. No notice, no pre-warning. Just you drive to the airport for your flights coming out of Pretoria, and all of a sudden you hit a massive, massive backlog of traffic. Some warning would be really good, wouldn't it? So this morning you're sitting from the Bopsfontein exit down through the Benoni off-ramp, through Pomona, and all the way down to Atlas Road. Make sure you've got a ton of time to get through that one. The Mike 1's pretty heavy today from Boysons all the way up to around about Glenhove Road, so that's an extended queue. Durban today, the N2 North jam-packed between the M7 and Westwood Mall. Apart from that, the M13 coming out of Pinetown to Paradise Valley to join the N3 looks a bit slow. The rest of the traffic seems to be fairly normal. Cape Town, N2 inbound, heavy from Langa, passing two breakdowns at Hospital Bend and then a crash on Searle Street as you get onto that Nelson Mandela Boulevard right into the city centre. R300's heavy from Stellenbosch Arterial up to the old Paarl Road exit. The N7 jammed heavily today from Vangate Mall all the way passing Langa, heavy up towards Beaufort Circle in Epping. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. The University of KwaZulu-Natal will take on the University of Zululand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. Join us for the 1 hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 5th of September 2025. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's turn once again to Ndauling Lechela for the second update of the morning. Let's talk banking, Ndauling. So ABSA is sitting across there and looking at Standard Bank and deciding that rich pickings for executive leadership. And therefore, I'll take that one. Tell me how that is playing out.
So ABSA is stepping up its efforts when it comes to having the right talent. Thulas, the lender's new top boss, Kenny Fihla, who is from Standard Bank, has beefed up his leadership team with key appointments from the Blue Bank, Standard Bank. Zaid Mullah, previously head of global markets at Standard Bank, will join ABSA as CEO of corporate and investment banking from January. And this, of course, is pending regulatory approval. Mullah's division at Standard Bank recently reported a record profit of 5.4 billion rands, which was a 64% surge from its previous period. Another Standard Bank veteran, Musa Mutloung, will take on the role of Group Strategic Risk Officer. These appointments signal Fihla's intent to grow ABSA CIB business and leverage its Pan-African presence. Charles Russon, formerly acting CEO of ABSA, will now lead the bank's Africa regions, overseeing performance, strategic planning, and stakeholder engagement. Now, the lender added that these appointments will help it spur its strategic initiatives. ABSA aims to consolidate its Tanzanian business, tapping into East Africa's growth opportunities.
And let's talk new vehicle sales. You're saying that they continue to be robust. They continued to be robust, at least in August.
That's right, Tulas, hitting levels last seen in 2019. The new vehicle market experienced a significant boost last month with 51,880 cars and commercial vehicles sold, representing an 18.7% increase from the same period last year. Now, this growth is attributed to an upbeat local market where interest rate cuts have helped and resilient export demand. Car sales still coming out tops, up at 22.5%, with most activity concentrated in the budget segment. Light commercial vehicles sales outperformed the previous August by 15.1%, while medium and heavy trucks saw increased year-on-year demand, except for extra heavy trucks, which declined 13.7% due to subdued mining activity. Now, vehicle exports remained strong despite the loss of the US market due to tariffs, but NAMSA warned that exports to other markets may face increased pressure moving forward. Toyota and Suzuki continue to be the top-selling car brands in the country. And then looking at our usual measure, our usual metric, the Bakkie market.
Men and women with the Bakkie. Yes, talk to me. I'm listening now.
Yes.
I'm sitting up
now.
Now
You're listening. I got your attention. So the usual really playing out. We are still seeing those double cab kind of Bakkies really boosting growth in that market, with the Toyota Hilux and Ford Ranger still a fave for consumers.
I wonder what the utility of that is. Is it just a nice car to drive, or does it have utility in the sense that you and I have framed this measure? That, you can put a wheelbarrow on top of it. You can put shovels and the likes, a cement mixer, and go and get a job done, and carry boxes and the likes. Or is it just a status symbol?
I do think it sort of does have perhaps some functional use as well, because I think of some places in South Africa where roads are really horrible. So, having that bigger sort of car sort of helps.
All right. Lastly then, Dowling, how are the markets looking at this hour?
So kicking things off in Asia, markets remain mixed. There seems to be a wait-and-see approach ahead of the U.S. jobs report. The Shanghai Composite, in the meantime, taking a knock down over 0.8%. Stateside, traders also on edge ahead of that important print. And with that, futures are in the red. And back at home, the JSE choppy, the all-share closed flat. We did, however, see big gains from the resources, up 3.5%, boosted by higher gold and palladium prices overnight. And then sticking with the resources, oil making gains this morning, up close to $68 per barrel. Lastly, in currency markets, the rand pretty muted at 17.64 to the dollar.
All right, Dowling, thank you for that. We'll catch up with you one more time just before we end the show, just after 8:30.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Mzansi, Powerball and Powerball Plus stand at 94 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Tuesday. Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 44 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 50 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529 hash for USSD. Panda, Pusha, Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let me start with a call from Sianda in Kariega. Good morning to you, Sianda.
Morning, Thulas. Good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you. Please go ahead.
I want to talk about the social development. I'm in the transport business. And this morning I heard something very disturbing from a security guard, which I am transporting.
Mm-hmm.
That she is a security guard working for a private company. I think it's in Kwazi or Kwazi, something like that, but consulted to the Department of Social Development. I was astounded to find that a person working so hard is earning 3,500 a month.
Yeah.
On top of that, Thulas, she's not getting any annual leave as other security guards would get. And I think social development, it is upon themselves that when we make tenders, when we bid for tenders, they ask for all sorts of documentation, including tax, which means that the government knows that people who are working for government must subject themselves to the laws of the country.
Yeah.
And yet, on the other hand, they are not making a follow-up to check if those companies are doing exactly that which they are supposed to do.
No, that's a fair point.
That is why I'm saying maybe these are the things that must be taken up with these companies so that they see to it that our people are not exploited.
Yeah.
It should not be a matter of them making a bid and after submitting documentation and they win the tender, they are left to do whatever they want.
Sianda, thank you for that. I find nothing that I could add there to what Sianda is saying. The importance of government using that leverage that they have beyond just, at the tender stage, but actually ensuring that the people that they contract to do work with are people who are compliant. Fair labor practice, it doesn't sound like it's too much to ask, really, that the people you do business with as the state should ensure that they carry out fair labor practice. I absolutely can align myself with that position that Sianda has taken. Crispin in Durban, good morning to you. Please go ahead.
Morning, Thulasizwe. The other day, actually, when John Hedeker was doing the show, somebody phoned in and complained about me phoning in and, in their view, sort of taking the side of foreigners in South Africa and suggested that I must be making money somehow out of this, which is like a little bit bizarre and actually quite funny.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say something about why I really strongly and very deeply oppose xenophobia and why I think that everyone should do also. I mean, I grew up in apartheid. And during apartheid, those of us who started questioning what was happening were subject to exactly that kind of complaint. Why are you taking the side of these black people? What's wrong with you? But we knew, like, even as a youngster, not that I was unaffected by the racism and in some ways damaged by it, but we knew that this was shameful, that the way that black people were being treated in South Africa, everything about it was wrong and shameful. And I think that's one reason, by the way, that whites still today struggle to talk about these issues.
Yeah.
Because of that sense of shame. And then, so we stood up. Eventually, we began to stand up and to say we support the rights of black people. So for me, it's a very deeply held thing. Most of my friends are actually black working class people, as it happens. So the kind of regard I have for them is exactly the same regard I have for other black people who just happen, in this case, to be foreigners. The idea of black people taking action against other people because they are black and foreign, I think is very, very shameful.
Yeah.
And I mean, during the apartheid era, I witnessed, for example, the ZP, the Zulu police, training their guns on African people who were resisting apartheid and killing them. I mean, that is shameful too. There's the involvement of the Bantustans in the suppression of black people is a shameful part of our history. It's not only the whites.
Crispin?
And when I see,
No, thank you for that. Thank you for making that point, Crispin. I don't believe that you needed to justify the views that you hold, especially seeing as they are not views that are outlandish and offend against our sense of public morality, constitutionalism, and the values and the likes. But I'm glad that you did and taking us into your confidence. And I think the point you make about then being name-called and being accused of being in the pockets of that camp or that camp. I think it's the kind of thing that detracts from the debates that we have. It's okay to differ, guys. It actually is quite okay to hold a differing view. The views that Crispin holds on migration, on xenophobia, may be different from your views, but what is the basis of questioning his bona fides? Engage with his views. And we don't have to agree all the time. It's what's that they say, agree to disagree. But we all benefit from hearing what's the counter argument to the argument that I hold, to the views that I hold. I think it's really as simple as that. I hold my views firmly, but what is the counter? Should I be considering it? Could it move me from my entrenched position to somewhat of a middle ground so that, we churn and move forward as a society? Thank you for that. We'll talk a bit more a bit later on.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
So if you rushed to accept SARS's auto assessment without double checking the numbers, you may be in for a bit of a nasty tax surprise. Tax experts say billions in refunds have already been paid out, but many of those assessments were based on incomplete or incorrect information. That means undeclared income, missed deductions, or even clerical errors could trigger audits, penalties, and interest down the line. The advice: don't just click accept. Review your return carefully and make any corrections before the 20th of October deadline. Let's speak to Daniel Swiggers, who is director at TaxTim. Good morning to you, Daniel. I may be mispronouncing your surname, and you will correct me if I got that wrong. But let's start with this. It all seems very convenient. SARS says, we've auto-assessed you. You don't need to do anything. Just accept the auto-assessment and things keep moving. It helps with compliance. Now, no admin for me on my side. Why is it not a good idea for me to just simply click accept?
Well, firstly, morning, Thulasizwe. Thank you for having me on the show this morning. I think the first point that's important to just make is that we actually want to praise SARS for what they've been able to do. I think the fact that they've embraced technology to really make it really simple and easy for South Africans to be compliant is fantastic. And that's all an auto assessment is. They're using technology to automatically assess you instead of you having to assess yourself. And they do that by pulling third-party data from your employer, from your bank, from your investment platform, from your medical aid. And as great as that sounds and as wonderful as that really is, I guess the point that we try to get across is to say, just because SARS has auto-assessed you doesn't mean SARS says that number is perfect and that they're okay with that number. The taxpayer still remains ultimately liable to make sure that their tax is correct. And the reality is, as wonderful as that platform is, SARS doesn't always have the full picture. So they aren't always able to know about certain incomes or certain deductions that you might be able to claim or that you need to pay. And I guess that's the point that we try and make, is just that South Africans have to check their auto assessments.
So what's the risk and the pitfall of not doing that? Tell me about some of the areas of concern, such as freelance work, rental income and the likes, as well as things such as pension fund directives.
So you're spot on. So I guess it's on both sides of your tax return. Firstly, on the income side, exactly to your point, if you're a freelancer or you had a side hustle, you earn some additional income, you still have to pay tax on that money. And again, SARS doesn't have the full picture, so they might not know about that. If that's income that you haven't gone and declared, you can still be liable to pay penalties on that if SARS ever had to find out that you actually earned income that you haven't paid tax on. On the flip side, South Africans might have other deductions that they might be able to claim. So, for example, home office expenses. You might have donated to a charity where you're allowed to claim a deduction, and because SARS isn't able to pull that third-party data, you've actually not gotten the size of a refund that you actually could have gotten. So, again, it's just really going through that. And although it's really convenient and most of your information should sit there, it's really just about go and find a tax practitioner, go to a platform like TaxTim, and just go through the whole process, triple check, make sure that things haven't pulled in incorrectly, and just really make sure that you are happy with what's what's in that tax return before you ultimately accept it.
So what's the word of advice then as we part, Daniel? Is it to don't just simply click accept? The refunds are already flowing from the side of SARS, but the last thing you want is for that refund to be reversed down the line, yeah?
100%. And even if you've been auto-assessed, you still have until the 20th of October to go and file a return, triple check that everything is okay. And again, if you're able to speak to a tax practitioner, if you're able to go on to TaxTim and go through the process, we really just advise that people check their auto-assessments and make sure that they're correct.
All right. I've got to thank you for your time. That's Daniel Swiggers, who is director at TaxTim.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy on your way to the airport coming out of Pretoria this morning. It's the roadworks that have popped up by Atlas Road. There's been a couple of crashes as well in the backlog around sort of the Benoni exit and around Pomona. So put all that together, and it's a very heavy queue from just after the Tembisa exit, or in fact just after the R25 Bupsfontein exit, if you like, from that point all the way down through Benoni exit, through Pomona, and down towards the Atlas Road exit. Multiple lanes closed in the roadwork zone. It would be nice if they forecast a little bit of warning on things like that, so at least you have time to prepare. But a lot of people running late for flight connections this morning on that run through. N12 again, Benoni through Boksburg is heavy. N17, Brakpan to Boksburg heavy into the roadworks. Mike 1 pretty busy today as well. Boyson's all the way up to Grayston Drive in the Santon area. Coming through Pretoria, the M1 South, it's now a breakdown down by the N4. There was a crash on the M1 South by the N4 Emilacleni split. It's now a broken down vehicle. Very heavy from Montana side. Durban sort of keeping it all normal and all in place this morning. All the traffic congestion is where you would expect it to be. There's nothing that really leaps out as being too outrageous. Don't forget tonight though in Durban, N3 outbound from Spaghetti Junction to Pavilion Mall closed 8 p.m. this evening until 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. You're going to have to come with an alternative route plan, which would be taking you off at Sherwood. If you miss that, you're going to then end up going either north or south on the N2 to find some alternative routes. In Cape Town, earlier crash on Nelson Mandela Boulevard inbound at Searle Street is being cleared. There is a crash on the N2 inbound before the M5 and a couple of breakdowns at Hospital Bend. So N2 inbound still a very heavy Tuesday morning from Langa. Behind that, the M5 is under some real pressure from Ottery area. And the N1 this morning, pretty sluggish from Plattekloof Hill all the way through to the city centre. There's some high volume traffic around Cape Town this morning, and there's some very misty conditions with poor visibility. Might be safe to allow extra time to get through it all safely. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. The University of KwaZulu-Natal will take on the University of Zululand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 5th of September 2025. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So yesterday we had a fascinating discussion around the cost and the price of toys in South Africa as the cost of living continues to soar. Many parents are feeling the financial pressure even when it comes to buying toys. What used to be a simple birthday or holiday gift has now become a major budget consideration with prices of toys understood by many to be climbing sharply in recent years. Many parents are forced to make tough choices, especially as the 0 to 8-year-old market continues to grow in demand but becomes increasingly expensive to cater to. It's against that backdrop that we were discussing yesterday, you and I, the Toys R Us and Babies R Us South Africa having announced a major expansion with Toys R Us acquiring 13 Toy Zone stores in Gauteng and Durban. So we thought let's get the perspective of people, of someone at the coalface of it all, Dr. Phumla Mganga, who is chairperson of Toys R Us and Babies R Us. Good morning and thank you for making the time. Let's start with the rationale for the tie-up, this transaction. Why is this a transaction that makes sense for you as Toys R Us and Babies R Us?
Good morning to Thulasizwe and morning to all the listeners. The strategic rationale for this acquisition is part of our sustainable growth strategy, and we honestly think that it's a win-win for the company and for the customer. Firstly, the Toy Zone company is accessible in that most of their stores are in the strip malls, and the strip malls, which the Toys R Us company is not located in currently, are accessible and they're convenient, and they offer more choice, and more importantly, and I'm sure you understand this as a parent, that parking is quite critical when you are buying any items for children, whether they be that special birthday present that you have to rush in and get, or whether you're trying to get a pram or just something that you need for a school project. So accessibility is really important. And we feel that the acquisition will assist us to be accessible to more South Africans.
So this is part of enhancing that accessibility. But what about product range? And also while you're talking to accessibility, just clarify there, are these the malls that are easier to walk into as opposed to the massive malls where, a trip to pick up a doll could become a 2-hour exercise?
Absolutely, Thulasizwe. These are what we call the strip malls and not the national or the regional malls. So that is the accessibility. And in terms of product range, if you look at Toy Zone currently, Toy Zone does not have the baby range. And if you look at Toys R Us, we have Toys R Us and we've got Babies R Us. So the idea is to insert that baby range into the new strip malls that were previously Toy Zone in order to allow for a more seamless shopping experience for our target customer.
So what got us on this conversation yesterday, which in the end actually resonated with many listeners, was a comment that I made about, traditional economic theory will tell you that we are better off where there's competition. So you and Toy Zone merging in the way that you do, it got me wondering, what are the implications for the market? And that's how the conversation was triggered. So perhaps you could start by answering that question. What are the implications for the market, the toy market, which we understand is estimated at some 9 billion rand at least last year? Will it make for good competition and toys being more affordable?
What's important from our perspective as Toys R Us is that even though we're an economic entity and we're a commercial entity, what is critical for us is that toys must be affordable to all South Africans, and that all South Africans must have access to affordable toys. And that is foremost in how we see our sustainable growth. Therefore, the acquisition per se will not necessarily result in increased pricing. What it will do is to allow us to bring more range to the customers and to allow for a more seamless shopping experience. We still believe that play is critical in the cognitive and psychosocial development of children, and therefore should be affordable to all South Africans. So is it going to increase the price of toys? No. The only issue that I wanted to point out to you, Thulasizwe, is that most toys are important, and so the pricing is more sensitive to exchange rate fluctuations than the acquisition per se.
And there are certain dynamics, Dr. Mganga, as a parting shot, in the market that you would be uniquely aware of that not many of us are. So many of us talking about toys are more expensive than they used to be when we were growing up and when we were playing with toys. Is that necessarily the case? And how does the market look at the moment, the market into which this merger comes in?
The market dynamics have changed irrevocably in the last, let's say, 10 years and post-COVID. Obviously, there is a shift to digital, but there is also the introduction of toys that is now being sold by the online giants, by the big box retailers, and therefore the competitive space has become significantly more crowded, especially around Christmas. So the competition has become more fierce. It has put pressure on the independent and specialty retailers. And as such, it is important that while we try to remain competitive and sustainably competitive, we can still provide affordable toys.
All right, I've got to leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time and for sharing those insights from the coalface. That's Dr. Phumla Mganga, who is chairperson of Toys R Us and Babies R Us, talking to us about the affordability and the market for toys and that tie-up with Toyzone. Let's go straight to Chandu Goregege now with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
Thank you, Thulasizwe. Your top stories at this hour. Parents of learners at a Pretoria school demand answers, and trial of men accused in Ngobozana massacre postponed. Good morning. With the news at 8 o'clock, I am Chandruko Ligege. Parents of learners at Bronkhorstspruit Primary School east of Pretoria are demanding answers following multiple allegations of rape and a lack of transparency. A grade 4 learner was allegedly raped in the school's toilets last month. Disgruntled parents are calling for the dismissal of the deputy principal and the school governing body.
The victim has been removed from school. A 9-year-old has been removed from school while the perpetrator is still walking the grounds. And it was also confined to us by the captain of the subs that there is a second rape.
The biggest issue also, it's a matter of security.
Yeah. So we are very angry at the school, I must say. Unfortunately, I wish that the principal was here at least to answer for himself. He's not here.
The trial of the 6 men accused of the Ngobozana massacre in Lusikisiki has been postponed to Wednesday. The accused who turned state witness, Lwando Abi, continued with his testimony yesterday at the Mthatha High Court sitting. Abi told the court that he transported accused persons Aphiwe Ndende, Sposokolo Myekete, Bonga Hintsa and Songezo Vuma to Ngobozana. He testified that he was given instructions by accused number 1, Mzukisi Ndamase, to get a car that won't be known in Lusikisiki, as he was based in East London. He alleges Ndamase wanted the man who allegedly shot and injured his nephew to be killed. Abi says he dropped the man in Ngobozana and heard multiple gunshots. The families expressed shock as they heard that Ndamase made multiple phone calls to accused number 5, the 21-year-old Songezo Vuma. The spokesperson for the families is David King.
Especially my brother was sitting next to me because when the witness was actually outlining what actually transpired on the night, I saw him crying next to me, and I was actually surprised to also pick up that Ndamase could just pick up calls and make calls at any time whilst he was in prison.
Former Western Cape Police Commissioner Limit Max says the National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola was within his rights when he reinstated 121 case targets that were taken from the Political Killings Task Team in KwaZulu-Natal. Acting Police Minister Ferris Kachalia says due process was not followed. KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi claimed political interference and corruption within the police service. Dr. Max says the Madlanga Commission and Political Killings Task Team are separate institutions.
The police are mandated in terms of Section 205 of the Constitution and among others to prevent, combat and investigate crime. So the intention of the National Commissioner to send it back for investigation fall within the purview of his authority. If you read the mandate of the Commission of Inquiry, there's nothing in there which actually tasks the Commission to investigate the legitimacy of the removal of the dockers.
The bail application of a former municipal manager is expected to continue in the Umzimkhulu Magistrate Court in KwaZulu-Natal today. 55-year-old Thulasizwe Simelane is charged with the murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Magaqa. It is alleged that Magaqa was murdered in 2017 because he was a vocal critic of how the finances for the refurbishment of a memorial hall were handled. During the last appearance, prosecutor advocate Lawrence Gaba told the court it's believed that Simelane is the surviving mastermind in Magaqa's murder. Simelane had previously been arrested in 2018 together with Harry Gwala District Mayor Mluleki Ndobe, among others. The charges were provisionally withdrawn in 2019 and Ndobe later passed away. Polokwane Executive Mayor John Mbe says more than 184 million rands will be required to complete the long-delayed softball stadium in Limpopo's capital city. The project, which began in 2018, has faced repeated setbacks and remains unfinished. Construction was halted following budget overruns and allegations of mismanagement. Mbe says a new contractor has been appointed and the stadium is now expected to be completed by 2027.
We have appointed a new consultant and a new contractor out of the assessment that this facility will cost us 184 million. Of course, we are doing it in phases. There is allocation for this year, allocation for the outer years.
Survivors of a devastating earthquake in eastern Afghanistan have spent a night in the open as rescue efforts continue. The Taliban authorities say more than 800 people have been killed and thousands injured when a magnitude 6 earthquake hit the region. Dozens of helicopters have been used to lift the injured out of the remote mountainous area, which was worst affected. A local doctor called Rafi Yola said people in the area are desperate for help.
Afghans are burying the dead themselves and carrying the injured to hospitals. I'm sure there are people still alive under the rubble. Some have died while trapped, waiting for rescue workers. It happened late last night when people were home and asleep. That's why hundreds were killed, and the death toll will rise. We need tents, we need medicine. It's hard to reach villages in remote areas in the mountains. Some helicopters have made it, taking injured people to hospitals in Kabul, but time is running out.
A recap on the top story at this hour. Parents of learners at Bronkhotspruit Primary School east of Pretoria are demanding answers following multiple allegations of rape and lack of transparency. For SAFM News, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
There are 1,500 reasons to get an Outsurance car insurance quote today. You heard it here. If Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. Make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Savings or cash, you always get something out. Get a quick and easy quote today. Call 0800 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, soccer action, Kaizer Chiefs rescheduling their premiership clash with Sekhukhune United to prepare, and that's for the CAF Confederation Cup duty. And we also bring you cricket action. Captain Themba Bavuma urging his team to build on the momentum from their Australia win. The details just before 8:30.
SAFM guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Pretoria. First up, very heavy on the M1 South today from Montana, all the way from Siafaga Makato down through Storenville and down towards an earlier crash and breakdown by the N4. Emily Flanish, that's really big traffic. Roadworks on the R21 down by Atlas Road. That's a super heavy queue if you're on your way to the airport. That'll catch you out. You might not be expecting that, but it is real, it is there, and it is very, very slow going. The rest of Joburg's highways, N3 this morning, Germiston to Modderfontein's pretty heavy. The Mike 1 from Boyston's really all the way through to about Melrose is pretty sluggish as well. Durban side today, the N2 running north, still heavy from the M7 up through Westwood Mall. The M4 Ruth First Highway under quite a bit of pressure from Blue Lagoon, making your way up towards Virginia Airport, on your way slowly towards Slunga. And Cape Town's a very heavy mist as you come into the city centre region. So the highways which outbound through sort of Brackenfell, Belleville, Khayelitsha, Delft might be flowing okay. The closer you get to the city, the heavier the mist gets and the slower the traffic gets. N1 inbound from Plattekloof, N2 backed up heavily from Jake's Curvell Drive from Langa in towards Hospital Bend. And the M3 this morning really struggling in some heavy stuff from Constantia up to Rhodes Drive and on to Hospital Bend. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply. Catch SAFM live on Thursday, 18 September at the TBCSA Tourism Leadership Conference. Conversations shaping the future of tourism. Brought to you by the TBCSA, the leading voice of tourism in South Africa.
GovTech 2025 is back from the 8th to the 10th of September at the Durban ICC for 3 days of innovation, inspiring speakers and powerful collaborations, all shaping the future of digital government. From policy to AI, cybersecurity, data, cloud and connectivity, GovTech is where transformation takes place. Innovation meets impact at the nation's flagship Digital Government Conference. Register now at govtech.gov.za and be part of shaping the future.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So the next conversation is brought to you and sponsored by the Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality. Let's speak to the Councillor Khaya Ngqisha, who is the member of the mayoral committee responsible for budget and treasury. We're talking, of course, off the back of the recently delivered people's budget. Councillor, good morning and thank you for your time. Can you give us a breakdown of the cluster allocations that came through from the recently delivered budget and how this will benefit those specific clusters?
Firstly, I must say that the journey to developing a people's budget began with a thorough, inclusive and integrated development process, which is what you call the IDP process, which is a legal requirement, by the way, and also a fundamental democratic tool. So we conducted an extensive public participation process, engaging residents, civil society, businesses, and all sectors within all of our 60 wards. And we dealt directly with our people to understand their needs so that we can be able to tailor-make the budget according to their needs. Now, the budget specifically, to be exact, for the financial year 2025-2026 was 21.61 billion rands, which is an all-funded budget, which means that all the money we are committing to spend is backed by real income, whether it be from government grants, service charges, or other revenue sources. Then you have 15 billion rand set aside for operating expenditure for things like your municipal workers' salaries, maintenance of infrastructure, etc. Then 3 billion rand, which is allocated for capital expenditure, which is mainly used for service delivery. So your building of roads, upgrading infrastructure, water pipes, fixing of leaks, etc., etc. So the rest is basically reserved for debt, for repaying our debts and maintaining financial stability. So this is just to show you that we are committed to ensuring that every cent brings real value to our residents.
One of the areas that have seen some residents battling with maintaining their accounts has to do with the rates and the soaring rates. Tell me about the efforts that you've put into this budget process to try and address that aspect, to try and keep the tariffs regulated.
Look, we've looked, as I said, we have spoken with our people directly. So it's not something that we've sat in an air-conditioned office and decided that we are going to do A, B, and C. We've interacted and directly with our people, and we feel that our people see the work that we've put in behind. And by the way, we visited ward by ward. Out of all the 60 wards, all wards were visited. And our budget as well were designed in such a way that they were ward-based specific budget. Moreover to that, there is a debt relief program that we've just passed in council, which also seeks a right of 50% of anyone that is in arrears in terms of their municipal accounts, and we are saying that the rest of the 50% you must pay it within 12 months. So this was a monumentous move, one of first of its kind in South Africa. No municipality has ever done what we are doing, to give 50% a right of relief to many of our residents and struggling businesses that have been in arrears in the municipality in terms of their accounts for a number of time. Remember, these people live in fear that the municipality might liquidate them, we might disconnect them, etc., etc. So to write off 50% is something that is a major relief to them, and many of them appreciate it.
And what have you found to be the uptake of that offer to settle accounts in a kind of a compromise kind of way?
Well, it increases our collection rate, because remember, when a debt is too big, consumers feel that it is impossible to pay. There are people that are owing us as much as 200 million. There are others that are owing less than that, about 10,000 rands, and some even lesser. So when you meet them halfway, you are luring them to pay their accounts. And you are also not unreasonable, because we are saying once you write off the 50%, we are giving you 12 months to pay the rest of the 50%. Furthermore, we are saying that if you miss a single installment out of this agreement of paying the rest of the 50% within 12 months, the 50% write-off will be reinstated into account. This is to ensure that everyone sticks to the agreement, because there's no one in their right mind that will want to use a 50% write-off. A person that is owing, for instance, 1 million to have 500,000 written off, nowhere in their right mind that wants to have that amount reinstated in their account.
All right. So we've had quite a series of these conversations in the last few days. How can residents of Nelson Mandela Bay keep up with further developments around the people's budget, and also, importantly, continue to hold you as the municipality accountable?
Well, all our residents are welcome to attend our council meetings. Fortunately, we've got ward councillors as well within each and every ward, and a ward councillor's office is open to the public. It's not a political arrangement, but it's a community-based officer that is responsible to assess and address the needs of the people. And so ward councillors are then responsible for ensure that information is disseminated to our people, and they are aware in terms of what is happening. And we continue to work like that, and it has been very much effective.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Councillor Khaya Ngqisha, who is the member of the mayoral committee who is responsible for budget and treasury at Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality. That conversation was brought to you and sponsored by that municipality.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 850-gram Parmalat pre-packed cheese for $119.99 and 250 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 2 kg Tastic parboiled rice for $34.99 and 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 7 September 2025 while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
James, congrats on the babies.
Yeah, thanks. It's a wild ride.
You're a new dad, 2 babies, 0 sleep, and 1 car that apparently couldn't cope.
Yeah, the hatchback was my baby, but it just didn't have enough space for my 2 new babies.
And are you happy with the price when you sold to WeBuy Cars?
Very. We've even got some extra cash to splurge on one of those fancy prams that you basically need a license for.
Good luck, James. WeBuy Cars. Geared for family, geared for you.
Mzansi, Powerball and Powerball Plus stand at 94 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Tuesday. Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 44 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 50 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, so let me reflect one or two of the messages that you've been sending throughout the morning. The first one is in response to the conversation we had with Lumka Oliphant at the top of 7 a.m. This person says, I still have gaps from your interview with Oliphant. Are DGs not appointed for fixed 5-year terms? How is it that she's into her fourth minister? Lumka Oliphant is into the fourth minister while serving in that position. You didn't engage her on the fact that no minister wants to work with her. We all watched her and Batabile's arrogance and abuse of power. Should she not have left with her? So just a quick response. Lumka Oliphant is not the Director General, so there's that slight difference. She is her official position, Chief Director for communications, and I can't remember the exact, but it's at chief director level. So it's a, what do you call it, a bureaucracy organogram position. So it's more on the administration. It's a job that you hold until you decide that I've had enough and I'm going to resign. It's not like the Director General who has a fixed term appointed by the president. As for no minister wanting to work with her, you did hear what she was saying, that she worked well. I think she mentioned 2 ministers, one of them being former Minister Lindiwe Zulu. But you're absolutely right that she's having problems with the current minister. And to say problems is perhaps an understatement given some of what she has said about Minister Sisisi Dolash. Then someone else wants to, in fact, I like this suggestion. This person shared some pictures of road infractions and violations and says, hi team, can we set up a traffic transgression hotline to eliminate lawbreakers and criminals on the road? Wouldn't that be nice? That's actually a very good idea. A hotline where you see something without breaking the law, of course, because if you are driving, you are also not supposed to be using your phone to take pictures. But if you can and you're not driving, quickly snap a picture and then, or if you catch it on your dashboard and then, it has all lines of reporting going all the way to law enforcement. That would be nice, I think. Then Jen in Cape Town weighs in on Toys R Us and Toy Zone that tie up and says, the only way Toys R Us can get us into their stores and not buying from Take-A-Lot is to make it a fun destination, not just shelves. That's something that online stores can't do. Why don't they do this more? So make it more fun, a more fun experience inside the stores. Let me take the calls now and let me go straight to Vuisile in the Northwest. Good morning to you.
Hello, Thulasizwe. How are you?
Very well. How are you? Please go ahead. You want to respond to Crispin,
great.
yeah?
Yes, please. I have quite a few disparaging comments on what he said, in the sense of, if I may ask a question, how many old, predominantly white people do you know that say they stood with apartheid? There's not many that stood. He stands here on his high pedestal, speaking as if he was part. My father has a bullet in the knee, my guy. He was part of the UPLA. He stood against people that speak like him.
Yeah.
Right now, I have to live with my father who has PTSD, who still remembers the old days, like in a certain way, you know. And people like him get here on the line and speak as if they were there on the front lines in Namibia, or they were there in Congo. And my dad was there. And I have to live with all of that. But be that as it may, when we're speaking about the issues of xenophobia, I think the main issue is we need to make sure that the resources that are here first serve everybody who's here. You get what I mean?
Yes.
You and I were born here. You deserve that when you go to Para, Maufige Para, you get the best service possible.
Yeah.
And in order for us to make sure that you get that type of service, is so that like the system is not overloaded by everyone else who's from outside. We're not saying we hate. We're just saying let there be a proper procedure, protocol. You know, everybody be documented, then we go by line. South Africans are not really hateful people.
Gotcha. Vuisile, thank you for making those points. I don't know if I can quickly squeeze in Taki. No, let me not do that. Taki, if you don't mind, can I call you back? Because I also think you also want to continue on the same vein in response to some of what Crispin has been saying. But thank you for that, Vuisile. We'll take more of those calls a bit later on.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you once again. Tell me about Kaizer Chiefs and Sekhukhune. When is that match happening?
Yeah, Thulas, Chiefs are moving the dates around, and they want to focus on continental glory. So they were supposed to play on the 17th. It's now moved to the 16th of September. That's a day earlier than originally planned. And it gives themselves extra time before traveling to Angola. Chiefs will face Kabuskop in Luanda on the 19th of September before hosting the return leg a week later. Both Chiefs and Sekhukhune United are tied at the top of the Premiership table on 13 points, separated only by goal difference. Meanwhile, champions Mamelodi Sundowns remain just 2 points behind, chasing a record 9th straight league title. More soccer, FIFA has issued a directive to relocate the World Cup qualifier between Lesotho and Bafana Bafana from the Toyota Stadium to the Dr. Petrus Molimela Stadium in Bloemfontein. The game was initially scheduled for the Free State Stadium, but SABC Sport understands that CAF, after seeing pictures of the pitch during a rugby game, decided to act. Let's find out from Bafana coach Hugo Bruges.
We received a letter, and in that letter was written that because of the condition of the pitch, that the game will be changed on the other stadium, the little stadium, so not to disturb the transport and the organization of the field. So for me, that's official. But you never know. But again, we don't have to focus on that, and this is out of our power. Just focus on the game, and we will see where we will play.
Let's go to rugby. South Africa and New Zealand will both be feeling plenty of nerves and pressure to win ahead of Saturday's Rugby Championship clash in Auckland. According to Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus, the Boks have not been victorious at Eden Park since 1937, and this test has been billed as the biggest for both sides.
History is obviously a big thing, and there's a big thing made about the whole Eden Park and so on. So for us, it's a nervous week. we are confident that we can do well. But I guess in New Zealand will be with the pressure that I can see that people put on them currently. We're experiencing very much the same. So I guess it's two teams that have a hell of a lot of respect for each other. But then also, internally, I think both teams believe they can win the match.
Cricket action. The Proteas are back on the field this afternoon, taking on England at 2 p.m. in the first one-day international series happening in Leeds. The South Africans have had a short turnaround between tours, but have used their early arrival in England for recovery and preparation. Fast bowler Kagiso Rabada has been given a break, with uncapped seamer Cody Yusuf called into the squad to bolster the pace attack. And we've got athletics. Lesotho's national 10-kilometre record holder Neheng Katala has confirmed that she'll take part in the 42.2-kilometre marathon for the upcoming World Senior Championships in Tokyo from the 13th to the 21st of September. The Northwest University sports science student revealed that she only completed one marathon this year, and it wasn't her fastest.
I did one marathon this year. I can't remember what's the name of marathon. Sorry about it. But I did one marathon. It was just preparation for two oceans. It was not fast marathon. So yeah.
And finally, the tennis legend Venus Williams rolled back the years at the US Open, teaming up with Leylah Fernandez to win their women's doubles round of 16. In the singles action, Japan Naomi Osaka upset the world number 3 Coco Gauff, and the top seed Iga Swiatek. She was clinical. She advanced. She'll take on the American Amanda Anisimova next. And that's a wrap. We'll serve more sport with John Hediger around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning. These are your headlines. The National Union of Mine Workers has expressed shock over looming job cuts of over 3,000 employees at Glencore and Samancor mines. Businessman Vusi Ketmatlala is expected back in the Alexandra Magistrate Court in Johannesburg today for bail application. And parents of learners at Bronkhortspruit Primary School east of Pretoria are demanding answers following multiple allegations of rape and a lack of transparency. I'll be back with a full bulletin at 9 a.m.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Easing up very nicely on the R21 South. There were some roadworks earlier which caused major problems and big backlogs, plus a couple of collisions in the queue. The roadworks are down by the Atlas Road exit. There's a little bit of sluggishness, but it's well off its worst. You'll just sort of slow down rather than be backed and stacked if you're arriving there now. So it looks like they may have got more capacity open in terms of lanes. N17, Brackpan through to Boksburg stays heavy through the single lane roadworks. The N3 from Limbro Park heading up to Buccleuch for connections onto the M1. That's pretty slow today. And if you're coming out of Pretoria, down through Midrand, joining from Montana, two major queues. Crash on the M1 South at the N4 Emmerlefleni split, heavy from Montana. And then you'll get to Brakfontein interchange and sit down to New Road. That is a collision, N1 South at the New Road exit. Durban's had a pretty good run through the traffic this morning. It's all been a bit sort of normal feel to it. The N2 North through Westwood Mall, that's just starting to ease up as well. Cape Town, something causing an obstruction on the N1 out of town at Plattekloof Road. That's quite heavy from sort of N1 city territory. And the rest of the highway network's really busy. You've got a high volume Tuesday, and you've got some very heavy mist lying across the sort of central Cape Town City Bowl area. So as you come in on the N1, the N2, the M5 or the M3, as you get closer to the city, everything backs up because of that really thick mist and poor visibility. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
The Business Update on SAFM.
For this hour, Dowling, let's start with the manufacturing sector. Tell me about sentiment in that sector. How did it look in August?
Now, optimism in the sector is fading out. That's as Absa's Purchasing Managers Index returned to contraction territory last month at 40.9 points. Now, this reversal follows July's brief expansion, the first in 9 months. Weak demand and renewed external pressures, including the U.S. tariffs on exports, contributed to the decline in confidence. Despite this, the third quarter PMI average stands at 50.2, higher than the second quarter's 45.4. Now, zooming in on the print, new sales orders fell 8.5 points to 47.4, with domestic and export demand remaining under pressure. Business activity declined for the 10th consecutive month due to ongoing competition from cheaper imports. But employment showed an improvement, rising 5.2 points to 48.9, though job growth remains below the 50-point threshold. Now, despite headwinds, the index tracking expected business conditions in 6 months rose slightly to 56.8 points, suggesting stability when it comes to longer-term sentiment.
Speaking of sentiment, then, Dowling, tell me about sentiment in the agribusiness. That's also faltering, yeah?
So according to the Agbiz IDC Agribusiness Confidence Index, sentiment in that sector dropped 2 points to 63 points. Foot and mouth disease and trade frictions were major concerns, while long-standing structural issues like inadequate municipal services hinder sector expansion. The decline in the third quarter also masks significant differences across various subcomponents. Sentiment around export volumes declined 17 points to 43, reflecting industry anxiety over those trade tensions between SA and the US. Confidence in general agricultural conditions also dropped as diseases affected the livestock sector. Employment conditions mirrored the broader economy, with farm jobs declining 3%. On a more positive note, though, turnover sentiment surged 20 points, driven by bumper grain harvest and improved financial services performance in agribusiness. Now, commenting on the index, Agbiz chief economist Wandile Sihlobo noted that the recovery of SA's farming sector will likely be uneven this year, with the livestock subsector under pressure while other subsectors grow. So alluding to, of course, that mixed performance in the sector.
Lastly, what kind of a trading day can we expect on this Tuesday?
So local markets likely to start the day choppy. In terms of company news, we've got ShopRite and Motus out with results. Barloworld also updating markets. So lots to digest at the open today. Now, despite the local news flow, action in the currency scene has remained muted, with the rand still at 17.64 to the greenback. Over in the commodities scene, oil ticking higher, up 1.3%, trading close to $68 per barrel. And back to equities, stateside futures are flat. Traders really taking a breather when it comes to equity markets as they await an update on the labor market, and investors in Asia also hitting pause ahead of that US jobs print, with stocks on that front mixed.
Dowling, thank you for that. That's Dowling Lichela, who's kept you updated on business, economics, and the markets throughout the course of the show today.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
I'm being bullied in the studio. Technical producer Zalma Khebi is just instructing me that just one call. Okay, Zalma, it's fine. Okay, I will obey. And the reason I want to take this one quick call, Shem Takiman, you've been holding for a while. Please do go ahead. Thank you for your patience. You want to respond to Crispin?
Yes, thank you, Tulas. Good morning. I hope you have a wonderful day there. Actually, at the time when you were interviewing, what was it, Crispin?
Yeah, when he called in.
Yeah. I had a hunch that this guy could be a member of Helen Suzman Foundation or perhaps human rights lawyers, because these are the organizations that stand for foreigners' rights in South Africa, and which is funny, isn't it? Much as they're not doing the same in their respective countries, I think for me that is a great concern, whereas I'm not having any problem for rights to be raised anywhere else for anyone. Okay, the point really this guy was putting across was that he made us understand that the black people during apartheid, this and that, that's how they felt, which I don't think he was black to understand how blacks felt at the time. So I think it is very important to raise issues when you really represent, particularly, like for instance, if I were to divert a little bit, if you were to ask an Afrikaner about the Afrikaners who left for USA, who are saying there's these things and everything else that's happening in South Africa, and an Afrikaner speaks to you, you would feel that this is a representative view in a way, even if you didn't do a representative sample in that regard. But this Chris been talking about how the black people failed during apartheid. I think it was misplaced of him to do that.
But did he do that though, Taki? Sorry, just to jump in. The sense that I got from him, he spoke about a sense of shame as a white South African at the time, being a beneficiary of the racist policies of apartheid. Sure, I've heard the last caller who was challenging him to say, look, today it's very hard to find a white person that says, I benefited from apartheid and actually supported it. So I take that point. But I think in terms of talking from experience, the way I understood him, maybe I understood him wrong, he was talking from the experience of a white South African who felt the shame of the racism at the time, but as an observer that observed some of the black on black, for lack of a better expression, experiences that way. I think he was talking about that one from an outsider's perspective more than being representative.
Thank you. But I think that he also went out to call for South African black people to really understand issues of living with the other black people that come from other countries, for which I felt that he does not really understand how it feels to be a South African who is called xenophobic in his country without actually expanding on what are the elements at play that leads to South African conducting themselves in the manner that they are conducting.
All right. Now, I take that point. I hear you clearly. That is Daki out in Limpopo. We'll make time for a bit more of those calls. We just needed to get Daki out of the way because he had been holding for quite some time.
The landowners of the following properties are called upon to file notices of appearance with the Land Court within 30 working days from the date of publication via television, newspapers, email and WhatsApp. Portions 147, 184, 303, 122, 167 and 174 of the farm Broederstroom 481 JQ. Portions 62 and 36 of the farm Leuvenkloof 480 JQ. Portion 34 of the farm Wilgegand 491 JQ. Failure to file a notice of appearance or notice to participate within the prescribed period may result in court orders granted in your absence. Inquiries, Registrar of the Land Court 010-493-5392 or Office of the Regional Land Claims Commissioner, Northwest Province 082-947-7106. Alternatively 064-009-2467.
Bafana Bafana will host Nigeria in a FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifier at the Toyota Stadium on Tuesday, 9 September at 6 p.m. Tickets are now available nationwide and online from 70 Rand for adults and 40 Rand for children at all Ticket Pro outlets, including Spar, Postnet, and all petrol stations. Get your tickets early to avoid disappointment. Come in Bafana Bafana supporter gear, ready to sing for a win. Gates will open at 3 p.m. If you are not in Bloemfontein, catch the game on SABC2. For more information, visit safa.net and at Bafana Bafana on all social media channels.
We all know a Mesa, that parent who randomly calls to check up on you.
Mjanam, when are you visiting?
She knows that every call or text goes towards her free funeral cover. She'll keep calling until she spent at least 120 Rand a month.
Mara, why haven't you accepted my friend request? Huh?
For every convo or scroll, you get 10,000 Rand free funeral cover. Recharge with 120 Rand every month to get covered. No paperwork, debit orders, or medicals. Recharge on the VodaPay app or dial *123#. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom.
Mzansi? Powerball and Powerball Plus stand at 94 million Rand in total estimated jackpots this Tuesday. Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 44 million Rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 50 million Rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
So let's bring in this concerning trend under the spotlight. Sexual offences have surged to alarming levels, with recent statistics revealing a near tripling of cases in just 4 years. According to the latest Governance, Public Safety and Justice Survey by Statistics South Africa, reported sexual offences jumped from 25,000 in 2020-2021 to 73,000 in 2024-2025. Activists and political leaders alike are calling the rise a national crisis, pointing to systemic failures in policing, justice and government accountability. Let's get a word from Cameron Kasambala, who is Women for Change Community Manager and spokesperson. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So by any measure, going from 25,000 reported sexual offences in 2020 to 73,000 in the past financial year, that's a massive concerning jump. How do we explain it? What is your understanding of how we can explain it? Is it one of those where we say it signals an increase in reporting, but perhaps not the underlying problem, or are we looking at the underlying problem itself growing rapidly?
I think statistics like this are always so jarred because I think people often underestimate the reality of gender-based violence and how frequent and it actually is, and the magnitude of the issue. And it's still terrifying because there's still about 90% of cases that aren't reported. The recent crime statistics this year for the fourth quarter, there wasn't even a section about child murder or femicide. It was just looped together under all murder. And I think things like that, where we can see that the way that we're even analyzing gender violence, where we're communicating about it, is so limited. It is such a misrepresentation of the issue. And I think when we do that, then the issue continues to be so prevalent. And I think the underlying causes do come a lot from that lack of transparency as well as a lack of accountability in holding our institutions, accountable for not doing the job that they're supposed to do.
So, Cameron, what does this rise say for all of our efforts, the much publicized efforts, including the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, as well as tweaks that we keep hearing about within the criminal justice system, the Tutuzela centers of the NPA, sexual offences units of the SAPS. What does the rise say about those efforts?
I think it tells us that these facilities are deeply under-resourced and that there is no implementation or investment in them to ensure that they're running effectively. I think when you have things like the Tutuzela care centers that are supposed to be this almost safe haven with everything that the victims or survivors will need to be able to navigate their particular just gender-based violence queries, that we put them in such a tough position because already it is hard enough to try and get the help you need, just, getting the world to report because there's so much stigma around reporting. And now you try and get this help and there is no one who specializes in gender-based violence. You're going to court where it's going to take months to years to get support. There's just so much reform needed. And I think with things like the National Strategic Plan, it was developed in 2019, and it is a phenomenal plan. It is so in-depth and well-rounded, and yet the issue remains that the implementation is not happening, and that is because of lack of investment. And I think these kind of things show us how the government really feels about gender-based violence on the side, and that they don't view this as a national disaster like Women for Change has been asking it to view it, and they're not reacting with the urgency that is needed for the magnitude of this issue.
Part of the commentary on this issue, Cameron, has framed it as, quote-unquote, a crisis of accountability, in that we're not holding one another to account for all of these grand pledges? What are the levers of accountability that we're not pulling at as a society that we should prioritize in the wake of these statistics, and perhaps use these statistics as a moment to wake up to that crisis of accountability?
You know, they say that it takes a community to raise a child, but I think here the community is raising and protecting abusers and rapists and predators. And I think that's the first level of problem, is that on a community, family level, we treat gender-based violence like it's this very taboo issue, and it's a private matter, and it shouldn't be escalated to the police force. And what that does is it teaches the survivors and victims that their issues are not something that they should be able to report on, and it's something that they have to internalize. And then you go out of the space of the community, and you met with issues with the police force. We reported about a case 2 nights ago where a young woman in Cape Town was gang raped by 4 men, and when she went to report it with her family to the police, they said things like these incidents happen every day. So you go to the police, and that's the narrative that they have, is that almost they can dismiss these cases because they don't take them seriously. So you don't even get to the point where you can actually get support. And when you ask police forces, or you ask police what's going on, and you report these issues to the police force, they make it an internal issue. They say the issue will be handled internally, and that tells us that there's no transparency about how we're holding these different policemen and the police stations themselves accountable. And that's just on that level. And it's similar with the justice system, holding them accountable. And it's this multi-sectoral and relationship that happens where we need every level to be acknowledged and held accountable, and be transparent about their purposes. And this can be done so much ease if the government admitted that this was a crisis and really began to focus its effort on tackling this issue and holding these different sections accountable.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you for your time this morning. Cameron Kasambala, Women for Change Community Manager and Spokesperson.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy coming out of Pretoria this morning. The N1 South. It's a crash that happened earlier by the N4 Emelethani split, and it means that traffic as you join from Montana, from Sefaka-Makato, is already heavy. You come off Sefaka-Makato into the traffic, you stay through Stormville and down towards that crash just before the N4. There's also heavy pressure this morning, between Brockfontein Interchange and New Road. That section of the N1 South moving through Midrand, very heavy for this time of day. Excuse me. Looks like a breakdown, stationary truck before New Road. That's why it's so bad. The Mike 1 going north under pressure. A crash at Grayston Drive. The collision is on Grayston at the M1. So as you come off the highway, you're pretty much turning into that collision. So the Mike 1, you might want to come off somewhere before that, like Caller Drive, and try an alternative route. N17 still busy between Brakpan and Boksburg through the roadworks. Durban easing up nicely this morning. The big backlogs that we had from M7 up through Spaghetti Junction all east. There are some roadworks again between Pinetown and Hillcrest on the M13, just as you get to Kloof and go down through the golf course towards Maytime. That's where the works are, single lane section, so that's slow. And Cape Town, pretty heavy on the N1 inbound. There's a lot of mist around the sort of City Bowl and central Cape Town areas, so high volume, and it's all going slow into the mist. So N1 from Platterkloof is heavy, N2 from Langa, N3 this morning. We were keeping an eye on heavy traffic there from the bottom of Wynberg Hill all the way through to Hospital Bends. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, the one thing I haven't done diligently this morning is play your voice notes. So let's spend the next few minutes doing exactly that. It's a whole mixed bag. Some of them responding to the conversation we had with Lumka Oliphant at the top of 7. Also the court case that is happening in the Western Cape around decriminalization of sex work that Melissa touched on in her morning brief in brief, and a number of people also wanting to respond to what Crispin had to say. So let me play them and then I will come in here and there.
Morning, Thulas and your team. Thulas, we must not forget that Oliphant was also implicated in the state capture. But because he was on the right faction in the ANC, media chose to celebrate her when he was appointed. They even called her to celebrate her. Thanks, Thulas.
All right, thank you for that. I don't recall, I'm not disputing, let me just be clear, not disputing. I don't remember Lumka Oliphant, what the details were that you're talking about of her being implicated in the state capture report. So I can't comment intelligently on that. I can look it up and perhaps we can pick up the conversation at some point.
Good morning, Thulas and SAFM listeners. Thulas, when we speak about sex workers in this country, calling the activities, why don't we call them male activities that are also sexual workers? Because we know there are men doing sex workers, because we see them on the night, on the street, picking up by different cars. They go out with different men. Lucy in Gauteng.
Lucy, thank you for that. I imagine that any change in the legislation and perhaps the legal framework would apply both ways, right? It wouldn't matter whether the sex worker is a man or a woman. That's just me imagining how it would all unfold coming off the back of that court case.
Good morning, Grant from the Free State. I never mind all the babbling on about this over expenditure. How on earth do you spend $3 million on a business trip to the United States? $3 million. That is ridiculous. Where do they stay? In the top hotels and eat at the top restaurants?
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
I'll tell you exactly where they stayed, Wena Grant. I think the hotel, according to the reporting of the Sunday Times, the hotel is called St. Regis out in Manhattan, and it comes with a butler to boot. The one executive's bill came to 1 million rand, just one executive. The flights, I think they were ranging somewhere in the region of just over 300,000 each. And we are told in that story, you should pick it up and actually read it for yourself, that some of the delegation left at least a week before the actual convention that was taking place in New York. So there you have it.
Thulasizwe, it's Yalezo Yeni Mtata. I'm a staunch ANC member, but what is done by Comrade Tolashe undermines the values of the ANC. I wish Comrade President Ramaphosa removes her and puts in place a minister who is not a member of the ANC. Because now it seems like our ANC cadres don't see the situation we are in as the party. Thanks to Thulasizwe.
Good morning, Thulas, and to the listeners. Thulas, the school in Alra Park, I can hear your guest explaining the history about everything, but there's no noise about it. If it was an ANC minister, why is the minister not involved in this one? Why is there no noise about the minister must come down, the minister must do this? South Africa.
Okay, I hear the point you're making. So the minister being Minister for Basic Education, Siviwe Gwagube, you're making the point that if it was an ANC minister, it would be about why doesn't the minister come down to deal with this particular situation at Alra Park? It's a valid question, but remembering also that the education is one of those areas, they call it areas of concurrent responsibility in terms of the constitution. So the province has a responsibility towards administration of education in their within their provincial boundaries. But you're absolutely spot on. The minister cannot be absolved from this situation. Ultimately, accountability for the entirety of the system comes down to the Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Gwagube. So you are well within your rights to call for her to also account for schooling being disrupted for 3 weeks and the government just seemingly, not really responding adequately and timelessly. So that's a point well made.
Good morning, Thulas and the listeners. This is Nati from Cape Town. We always give Ntaoleng homework, ne? But
Yes.
this time I want to give it to you, Thulas. Please check on the members of parliament, on their declaration forms, how many have farms. Because you would see what is the real reason why they are not interested in land redistribution. Thank you.
Okay. All right. A bit of homework for me. I was getting excited thinking, here we go, Ntauleng will do some work. That always makes for fascinating reading, the declarations of members of parliament. I can't guarantee that I'll get to it immediately, but I will do my best because, it's quite a long list of people to go through that made declarations, and I'll be looking specifically for farm ownership. Lastly, let me take this one, a response to Crispin.
Good day, Thulasizwe. This is Lane Padazan. I think your caller right now, I don't know what's up with him, but the fact that he's calling Africans, black people, that says a lot about his character. And to be thinking that he claims that he's fighting for what's righteous for foreigners. Are they even legal in this country? How can you fight for criminality?
All right. Thank you for that. It's been a fascinating conversation. Very quickly, someone says it was Pumla Oliphant, not Lumka Oliphant, who was in state capture. That's Andile in Willowvale. I don't know who Pumla Oliphant is, but I get the point you're making when Andile, and thank you for making it. I remember Pumla Williams being a witness in the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. I don't know what was eventually found. Remember, it came in multiple volumes, so it's only natural that the details, you need to go back each and every time something comes up. So all of us have to keep each other and just remind each other of what transpired, what was found, what wasn't found. That's it, really. Thank you for listening today, and thank you for your robust engagement as always. Do stay with the station. Up next, The Talking Point with Kete Mohlahlana, coming up after the news. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. You've been briefed.
Thank you, Thulasizwe. Your top stories at this hour. NUM expresses shock over looming job cuts, and parents of learners at a Pretoria school demand answers. Good morning. With the news at 9, I am Chandruko Ligege. The National Union of Mine Workers has expressed shock over looming job cuts of over 3,000 employees at Glencore and Samanco mines. Glencore has confirmed that it has triggered a Section 189 retrenchment process under the Labour Relations Act, effective from the 1st of September. The move impacts Boshoek and Vonderkop smelters in Rustenburg, Roven Vanadium near Bethany, and the Carbon Division in Emalahleni. NUM Chief Negotiator Lev Timashiho has slammed the retrenchment plans.
We are really shocked that the company finally have activated their contemplation to this effect. We are sitting at the highest peak of unemployment in South Africa. We are talking around about 3,000. It's a lot of sections. As a result, we are talking above 3,000 employees to be affected by this thing.
Businessman Vusi Kat Matlala is expected back in the Alexandra Magistrate Court in Johannesburg today for bail application. Matlala, his wife and 3 others are facing charges of attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Matlala allegedly ordered a hit on his former girlfriend, Tebogo Tobejane. Previously, Matlala abandoned his bail application. However, he has since told the court that he wants to apply for it. Accused number 4 in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial, Mthokoziseni Mapisa, is expected to find out this morning if charges against him will be dropped. Mapisa is the only one out of the 5 accused to bring the discharge application before the High Court in Pretoria. He and 4 others are on trial for the 2014 murder of Meyiwa. Defense counsel Zitulele Nxumalo says there is no evidence linking Mapisa to the murder of Senzo Meyiwa.
According to the version of the state, the only witness who met and placed the accused at Phosphorus Hostel on the 26th of October 2014 was Constable Zongo, Constable Sizwe Zongo, who was a single witness. It is straight law that a court should approach the evidence of a single witness with caution. The evidence of Zongo was not corroborated in all material respects.
Gauteng Education MEC Matume Chilwane has promised to build a new school at Alra Park Primary School in Nigel, east of Johannesburg, within the next 18 months. Chilwane said this while visiting the school following last week's disruptions. Learners have not been to school for 3 weeks after concerned parents halted teaching and learning, citing health and safety concerns. A window had fallen earlier and injured one of the workers. Chilwane has made this comment.
I have to say we did find each other. It's not good that our children are at home for so many weeks because they are losing a very important aspect of teaching and learning, and it becomes quite difficult now to recover. But however, the district will be working closely with the school on a recovery plan for the learners because they have to recover the lost time, which might include, amongst others, after-school classes.
Parents of learners at Bronkhotspruit Primary School east of Pretoria are demanding answers following multiple allegations of rape and a lack of transparency. A grade 4 learner was allegedly raped in the school's toilets last month. Disgruntled parents are calling for the dismissal of the deputy principal and the school governing body.
The victim has been removed from school. A 9-year-old has been removed from school while the perpetrator is still walking the grounds. And it was also confined to us by the captain of the subs that there is a second rape.
The biggest issue also, it's a matter of security.
Yeah. So we are very angry at the school, I must say. Unfortunately, I wish that the principal was here at least to answer for himself. He's not here.
Rebel group Sudan's Liberation Movement says an entire village has been engulfed following a massive landslide and its entire population of more than 1,000 are feared dead. The rebel group that controls the area said days of heavy rain triggered the landslide on Sunday, which left just one survivor. Many residents from North Darfur State had sought refuge in the Mara Mountains region after war between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces RSF forced them from their homes. The BBC's David Banford reports.
The Sudan Liberation Movement, which controls the Mara Mountains in the Darfur region, says the village of Tarsin was buried under mud and rocks following heavy rain on Sunday. The area where the landslide occurred remains largely inaccessible to the UN agencies and indeed to the protagonists in Sudan's long-running civil war because of the difficult terrain. The SLM has appealed to international aid organisations to help with rescue efforts, but it's unclear how they can even get to the location.
A recap on the top story at 9. The National Union of Mine Workers has expressed shock over looming job cuts of over 3,000 employees at Glencore and Samanco mines. For SAFM News, I am Chandruko Ligege.
Oh, hello. Let's do a little word association. I'll say some phrases, you see how they make you feel. Retirement, credit card balance, another interest rate hike. Still calm? Well then, you've got the F Factor. It's that special something that comes from having a clear financial plan to manage and protect your finances. If you broke into a sweat, you probably don't have it yet. Visit livewithconfidence.co.za to up your F Factor. Sanlam. Live with confidence. T's and C's apply. Sanlam Life is a licensed life insurer and authorized FSP.
When you're smiling, on 19th September, wear your favourite socks to school or work and help spread smiles to children across South Africa. The sun comes shining through. Get your Socks for Smile sticker today at smilefoundation.co.za because every sticker helps fund life-changing surgeries for children in need. Smile Foundation. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
Let's rewind 6 years, when Twitter was still Twitter, and not a letter of the alphabet. TikTok was simply the sound your clock made. And Zoom just meant enlarging a picture. So it makes you wonder, what will the next 6 years bring? Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, covering everything from pistons to gears. So although a lot can change in 6 years, our warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
Mzansi, Powerball and Powerball Plus stand at 94 million rand in a total estimated jackpot this Tuesday. Don't delay, play Powerball for an estimated 44 million rand and Powerball